States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome to the July 13th business meeting of the Milford Board of Education. Can we have a roll call, please, Ms. Fleming?
Yes. Megan Doyle.
She's excused.
Jennifer Brown. Here. Mary Claire Edmonds. Here. Nicole Flowers. Here. Tom Kova.
Here.
Adam Scobie.
Mr. Scobie is questionable, so if he does not hear, he'll be excused.
Okay. Hannah Tedros. Here. Nicole Wilhelm.
Here.
Cindy Wolf-Boynton.
She is excused.
And Susan Glennon.
Here.
All right. We have 7 members present right now.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, we start the meeting off tonight. We don't have our students here, so we start with public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to make public comment tonight? If not, I will dispense with the public comment statement. No public comment? Okay. Chair's report, short and sweet. Just a reminder for everybody that our next meeting is not until Monday, August 24th. So we have a little bit of a break. Work will still be continuing, so keep an eye on your emails. And I will turn the meeting over to the superintendent for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Glennon, and thank you, members of the Board of Education. Glad to see you here on this summer meeting. As we annually do, we will be just doing a quick overview of some highlights of the school year. This serves as the official year in review. Please know that this is not meant to be a comprehensive review, but this, along with the instructional highlights and the regular updates that you receive during business meetings and the committee of the whole meetings, should all come together comprehensively as the review of the year. So these are some of the highlights of the year. Happy to answer any questions as we go along if you have any. So let's get started with one of our favorite subjects, right, Mr. Bradbury, facilities. Yes, in fact, we're here to talk a little bit more about that this evening. Please know or be reminded that we are reflecting on this previous school year that has been completed. And that year, this previous school year, we, if you recollect, flat funded those line items in facilities and grounds. So there were not many projects to complete, but the funding that was provided to the department, they made the most of it and identified those priority areas. So for example, you'll see some facility work here done around cutting down necessary trees, particularly trees that were close to buildings or dangerous lines close to the building or near the trees. We installed new playground equipment or resurfaced some of the mulch or chips below the playgrounds. And in some cases throughout the facilities, we were forced to replace or upgrade parts of electrical panels. So that was part of the work that was done throughout the year. There are also some air handling units that rose to the level of priority. I know we'll be talking a little bit more this evening about climate control. We also had the necessity to repair gym floors due to regular wear and tear, and in some cases moisture damage. So you'll see part of the foreign floor being ripped up there. Just as a reminder, the scope of our work is quite large. Our department does an incredible job overseeing 1.1 million square feet of building space, about 179 acres of grounds, and around 500 classrooms across 14 buildings. Some of the other projects that were completed and or started in the summer of 25, so about a year ago, you'll see other projects here, some repairs and maintenance to HVAC, gutter cleaning, your regular maintenance around mowing, trimmings, cleaning turf fields, which is a little bit more extensive than a regular field, and sometimes a little bit more expensive, boiler repairs, roof repairs, and anything that you would be doing around your house times 14 here in the district. So thank you to Mr. Bradbury and his team. Members are with us, some of the members with us this evening for the purpose of the presentation later. Last summer, we celebrated the work of our teachers in season 6 of HQI Live. This looks like a small group because it was. It's about 60 teachers that attended last summer. If you'll remember the political climate last year, it was a difficult one. And HQI as a model, as well as professional learning, was under attack. And we had some difficulties in really attracting teachers to the summer experience. But Ms. O'Teary, we're back. Season 7 had how many attendees?
148.
148 of our own district
Of our own
teachers.
district, yep.
And then we had some visitors amounting in about
29.
29
from Region
visitors.
10.
So I think it makes it our biggest year yet.
Yes.
So that didn't scare our teachers away. In fact, we're so proud that although it took 7 years, please note that it is an earmark year in that it was developed and implemented, facilitated by teachers, and that was always the dream. It started off with myself as a developer and facilitator, and we're always wanting to hand the baton over. The vision was that professional learning is developed by and developed for with teachers, so we were able to accomplish that. So thank you, Ms. Altieri and team. We know we had our administrator team working behind the scenes and shoulder to shoulder with our teachers. And thank you to the board members who are able to attend. So appreciate your support in that way. So here is the team from season 6. You'll have to wait a year to see the picture of season 7. No, just kidding, we'll send it. I'm sure, I think it's on the website. Yeah, season 7. And this year they decided to take a picture in the form of the number 7. So it's quite creative. Predictably, I wonder if we'll do 8 next year. And you already announced dates for next year?
We have
Ms.
not
Altieri?
announced dates
Oh,
yet.
have
It's
not,
coming up in
okay.
the next few weeks.
All right, we'll let the board know so you can hold that week, okay? And hopefully, Ms. Brown, Bridgeport won't be going to school that late.
Until all of summer.
One of my favorite days of the year is Convocation. It is the 3rd day of teachers being back and the day before students come back. And there is such an energy in the room. You as board members are invited to that morning if you'd like to get up that early. We kick things off at 8 a.m. on Wednesday before school starts. And in 2025, our theme was the seashell, or learning is not, or progress is not linear. And that the seashell we usually hand something out to every teacher as a reminder. And that the seashell signified that every child is an individual. There's not another seashell just alike. And just to remind us that every child is unique and they're not going to make progress every single day, but the key is to keep on focusing on each child and the progress that each child makes. So it's a celebratory day. The mayor speaks, Ms. Glennon speaks. We have the union with us addressing the crowd as well. We celebrate years of service. We celebrate our new teachers. So I really, really do hope that board members can pencil in that about 90 minutes that morning. So do mark your calendars. It is Wednesday the 26th at 8 a.m. So it's at Jonathan Law. This year we onboarded 32 new staff members. Please know that all new staff members to Milford start off in an induction experience where we immerse our new staff in a 3-day environment where we engage immediately in relationship building and the theme of belonging and being part of a team and then something greater as a greater school community. We have our teaching and learning team primarily in conjunction with our TMD team, engaging our new teachers in required training, of course, but also training that brings us together in learning how to work with one another, becoming familiar with our model for high quality instruction, our curriculum documents, resources available, and then we also give our new teachers time with their assigned mentors. So every new teacher gets a mentor. The mayor comes and addresses the team. I'll address the team. We have the union come and address the team as well. So it's a nice 3-day way of wrapping our arms around our new staff members and giving them a sense of belonging right from the beginning. The first day of school, we're all very busy and on our feet visiting classrooms. I don't know if this board knows, but it is customary for the mayor and the superintendent to travel together the first day of school and visit classrooms. So it's a nice city public school partnership. We visit classrooms. In this case, glad that this is not the video that was added, because Ms. Jones and I did a little bit of singing and dancing together. I think there is a video actually of it. Ms. Fleming, please don't find it. But that sort of emphasizes the glory and the joy of day one. And so the mayor and I have the pleasure of visiting classrooms on day one, and we'll do that again this year. In the world of transportation, we transported 3,696 students this year to and from school. That amounts to 61 buses. We were able to find efficiencies, and please know that we ended the school year with 59 buses. We clock about 105 bus runs and averaging about 1,000 bus stops. When it comes to feeding our young people, we served 524,035 meals in this school year. We do test out items throughout the year, so Ms. Faustich and her team engage in recipe testing, give samples to kids to give them an opportunity to try new foods, and whenever possible, we use locally sourced products. We try to onboard new partners when it comes to that, whether it's local vendors or farmers, and develop new relationships so we can continue to cultivate that nutritious element of our food. This is just a reminder that we can't do our work without the many partners in our community, and this is just a representation of the partners we do work with. And it's not just the partners year after year, that albeit we experience a great historical partnership with many, we also look for new partnerships. So for example, Mr. Zenowitz and I this year reached out to the Cornell Scott Hill group after it was recommended to us by one of our parents, and it looks like we'll be able to do some work with them through a grant that they found. More to come on that though, because we're still finalizing the details, but just wanted to mention that we are continuing to look for ways to provide our services, add to our resources for young people through additional or new partnerships. So more to come on the Cornell Scott Hill group and our partnership for the coming year. This is just a highlight of a new partnership. We were approached by AAA this year. It highlighted an opportunity for our young people, particularly at Orange Avenue. We selected that school to help bring awareness to school is open, please drive safely, and our school safety climate team, the students at Orange Avenue, got dressed up in their safety gear and were present for the presentation where the Lieutenant Governor was present, State Representative Kathy Kennedy, representatives from AAA, the Police Department, the Connecticut State Police, the Children's Hospital. We all partnered this year to bring awareness to safety on our roads because school was open. It's another example of the types of partnerships we engage in. Oops, sorry, I skipped that slide. Additionally, it is important to share, as has been shared with you, that we're grateful that we're open on, that we are actually in session on Veterans Day, because all throughout, all 14 buildings, and some board members attended this also, we take the opportunity to honor our veterans in different ways, all age-appropriate ways. Some of our kids sing, some of our kids draw and write cards, some of our kids make lunch or make snacks, have lunch, have a breakfast. It's just a really special time. It's an opportunity for us to teach our young people how to honor and recognize our veterans. We also try to incorporate making learning fun. And if you're an elementary family, you know that we celebrate Read Across America in all sorts of ways. In this particular class, we did not have funny headgear or costumes, but you would actually see a lot of that throughout the district on a day like this. There may be a picture of even the mayor wearing strange headgear when it comes to reading across America. But it's great headgear because it's usually made by children and colored and pasted with all kinds of fun stuff. Board members will likely be invited next year to read. If you weren't this year, the mayor is invited, elected officials, police officers, firemen, firewomen, all aspects of our community, members of our community are invited in to read to our young people on Read Across America. So a great way to emphasize an academic area like reading and have fun and have our kids interact with our community. This highlight, I think, is pretty special in that it was Mermaid Books that approached us a couple years ago when they first started and said that, you know, we're interested in doing things with the school district, promoting reading, promoting having kids have literature in their hands. And this year, the author, illustrator of Fancy Nancy came to Milford Public Schools. I think it was actually a Saturday or Sunday. It was so well attended. Actually almost like a Taylor Swift concert in that everybody came in feathers and pink and in their best Fancy Nancy era. Well attended, our kids were read to and got to meet the illustrator of a very, very popular kids book. But again, thanks to Mermaid Books for helping us make that happen. Every year we engage our parents through what we like to recognize as the Week of the Young Child. This primarily focuses on preschool and kindergarten youngsters, and where we celebrate the learning, the fun learning of being 3, 4, and 5 years old, and we engage our families in activities that they can do at home with their child, as well as celebrations that we hold within our classrooms, inviting parents to our classrooms as well. So we do that on an annual basis. Another thing that we have been running for a couple of years now is the Circle of Security workshop. It's a parenting workshop. It's an 8-week workshop where we bring parents of our young people together. We provide childcare, and they're all very different kinds of topics that are covered that are relevant to families today. How to engage your child in literacy, how to handle technology, the evils of social media, the challenges of social media. So we hope to continue this. It is brought to us through the Circle of Security Parenting.
Yeah.
I think that's, yes, Security Parenting. Sorry, just doubted myself there for a moment. So we hope to continue that in the coming year. We also, as you very well know, engaged in a deep process of the Long Range Facilities Master Plan. Counted this under the parent engagement category in that we had lots of opportunities for families, community members to engage with us, with you, around making that very vital decision. In the world of communication, Mr. Autieri and I actually really enjoy producing a monthly Milford Moment. And in this case, I think this picture demonstrated how poorly we are at drumming. We are poor drummers. But it's a really fun activity in that we get to highlight what's happening in our schools. We get to gauge the viewership on that. It's actually quite good. Some of them are more popular than others. So we do produce a monthly engagement in trying to get our content into our homes and throughout the community. So we hope to continue that this year. And very important work we engage in this year is onboarding 5 new board members. We didn't get to as much policy as we like to, but we had a lot of other work in the world of facilities. So we were able to complete together the revision and approval of 9 Board of Education policies. Sorry. I'm forwarding on my laptop and not forwarding on the screen. Please accept my apologies. So in the world of long-range facilities plan, I would claim this to be one of our biggest accomplishments this year. Thank you to this board for your stamina and your perseverance in making a very difficult decision. It was a decision that took 3 years to make, and it develops a roadmap for us now to start implementing. And I know that we have a lot of work ahead of us in the 26-27 school year to make sure that we launch this appropriately in an interactive and engaging way with our community. In the world of academics and performance, I am not going to read this entire list to you, but know that we implement the full cycle of our curriculum revision and implementation work, everywhere from collecting data, analyzing the effectiveness of the implementation of curriculum, to initial implementation years, to full implementation years, to then again collecting data and assessing its impact. So you'll see the various content areas that and where they were this school year. So for example, the elementary STEM curriculum, we were in MAP development, meaning we are scoping out the curriculum. What does it look like over the course of a year in the life of given grade? Okay? Sorry, do it again. And that's another slide on our academics and where they are in all areas. So in the world of advanced placement, we're happy to share that we had 180 students named AP Scholars. Of those 84, 32 were scholars with honor, recognized with honors, and 64 with distinction. You'll see the difference there in the average score. It's really important to note that we have an open door policy for advanced placement classes. So any student can sign up for an advanced place class. We don't require a child to perform at a certain grade level or a grade point average. If a child wants to try to take a rigorous course like an AP course or an ECE course in the world of college credit, we allow the child to do it. We're doing it with an open door policy and having great success. As you'll note in the next slide, that both of our schools are on the gold distinction honor roll. So that is something to be very, very proud of. So we have an open door registration policy and our students are doing well in AP courses. So that to me speaks volumes to when you believe in kids, and you have high expectations for them, they will rise to the expectation. This is also our 6th year in a row as being named one of the best communities for music education. Something to be very proud of. Our students engage well beyond the classroom in something that is super special, and that is the Model UN Conference, in which our students come together and actually take on, they embody being ambassadors, taking on real world international problems. And by the end of the day, and they're at it 6-7 hours, they are to come out with a supposed solution amongst the countries. It's really a fascinating event that not all school districts engage in. So very, very special opportunity for Milford High School students. I'll never get tired of saying this, but we had 7 of our 8 elementary schools recognized as school distinction. And this happened before many of board members were on this board, but I was asked to come with one of our students to represent Milford Public Schools at the state capitol, to share our success story, and we were one of 3 school districts honored that day, to share the story of how we got to where we did with our accountability index score and the achievement of our elementary schools. In the world of athletics, it's been an incredible year. Warren High School took home the state championship in girls soccer. Warren High School took home the state championship for wrestling. And Warren High School took home the state championship for softball. So we're incredibly proud of our student athletes. We annually have the James Wynn Middle School track meet, and I'll give you all one guests to identify who you think won.
Harborside.
Harborside. For those of you who don't know, I think it's like the 9th or 10th year in a row
I
that
think
they've
it's
won.
10, something like that.
10th year, right? The undefeated middle school track team of Harborside Middle. It's a very big deal amongst the middle schoolers. It's a day of healthy competition, and middle schoolers being middle schoolers, buzzing about, getting a lot of energy, and focusing on physical fitness. So I know a lot of 8th graders going home talking about how this was the best day of middle school. So, and they're running. So, we also like the fact that we celebrate sports for all students, and we have a really special unified sports program here where our students with disabilities partner with typical peers and engage in regional competition. So there are neighboring school districts that come and compete with our kiddos. If you've never been to a unified game, you should come. It is,
It's awesome.
it's one of the most uplifting events. So please be sure to check your weekly update for an upcoming unified sporting event. And bring your children too, it's a lot of fun. And it's usually right after the school day. Another thing to celebrate, both of our esports teams in their only second year participated in the state semifinals for the fall and spring seasons. And something that will go down as one of my favorite memories in my entire career is the day that former U.S. Secretary of Education, Dr. Miguel Cardona, came and celebrated our work, our unique work in HQI Live. We had a panel of student, teachers, administrators, just talk about how special professional learning is to them here and how well they feel supported. Annually, and many of you were part of this, we celebrate the District Paraprofessional Teacher and Parent of the Year, and thank you for all of you who participated in the Of the Year celebration in May. We ended the school year closing out with middle school stepping up ceremonies, and it happened so fast, and then you blink, and then suddenly we're celebrating high school. And the Academy celebrated 12 graduates this year. Law celebrated 193 graduates, and Foreign celebrated 191 graduates. And that's the 25-26 school year in a wrap.
You have questions? Mr. Bradbury, if I'm not mistaken, I want to point out, I think a lot of the maintenance work, you do it whenever possible using your staff here in district, right? So we have awesome staff that do incredible things, and thank you for that.
Thank you. They were great staff. They were very talented.
I think the past year deserves acknowledgement for all the many positives that you just mentioned and the progress, and it's really a direct reflection of the dedication of our teachers, administrators, support staff, and the kids. It's not by accident, and it's a result of, the clear vision and administrators holding everyone to high standards, teachers adapting their instruction to meet the needs of individual students, and the contributions of everyone who helps things run smoothly. So I want to just thank everybody on the team across the district for your efforts. I think you've given everybody a year to be proud of, so a reason to be proud of Milford Public Schools. I think this is really the pièce de résistance, what we all hope to see, this kind of progress to keep things moving in the right direction. So, anybody else? All right, thank you for that update.
Thank you for your support. So, Ms. Glennon, board members, we are having the annual family engagement report, but please note that this is significantly later than usual. This report usually occurs in late winter. We were kind of busy. Do you all remember that?
No, I don't remember. I might have blocked it.
It's such a long time ago. So please note that some of this might be like, oh, well, why are we talking about it now? It really is a winter conversation. And this data that's about to be shared with you is based on spring 25 survey data. And we just downloaded our spring 26 data, but that will be held for you for next winter.
Right.
Okay.
I think we normally do it in like April.
Is it April?
I think so.
Okay.
And here is the larger version, so we don't need microscopes.
So, happy to introduce Dr. Christine Gillespie, instructional supervisor for school climate, wellness, and fill in the blank. So, Dr. Gillespie, thank you for being with us on an annual basis to share with us the annual family engagement report.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be with all of you this evening. It's so nice to meet those of you that I haven't met before. So, as was mentioned, this is typically information that we share a little bit earlier, but very happy to share our annual update on family engagement across our Milford Public Schools. It's one of the most important factors that influences student outcomes, and it's also incredibly important as part of our work around belonging and school climate as a whole. So this presentation will highlight what we learned from the 2025 Parent School Climate Survey, as well as how our schools responded to that feedback, and then we'll talk about where we're headed next, given that we now have our 2026 results as well. So I wanted to start with a quote because this really captures the reason why we do this work. Our goal isn't simply to communicate with families or to check a box on a required component. It's really to build authentic partnerships. And we know that students are more successful academically, socially, and emotionally when schools and families are able to work together. So this work is really about student outcomes. Research consistently tells us that students are able to perform at much higher levels, they attend school more consistently, and they have a greater sense of belonging. And as a district, this has been one of our top priorities, where family engagement is one of the ways that we strengthen the ways that our students are connected at school. Now, I also wanted to explain a little bit about the history of the school climate survey. Connecticut requires districts to administer a school climate survey annually, biannually I should say, to parents as well as other stakeholders. And these surveys initially grew out of accountability legislation, but today's requirements are much different with the updated school climate legislation. It's actually now a requirement that we revision our survey to be research-based, that we conduct it at least biannually, and that we develop detailed school climate plans for each building based on these results, which we then share. So you're going to see tonight a picture of how that's happened across our Milford schools this past year. So there are a number of encouraging findings that I'd like to highlight first, which is some of them include that 96% of parents report that their child has friends at school. And for me, this is one of the most important indicators that we look at every year. It's the first question. I look to see what the results are. So this remains incredibly consistent and incredibly high. Also important, always want to know how parents are reporting how their children are feeling. So in addition to happy, it's remained consistent that families are reporting that their children are also, one of them is that they're content, and that's remaining consistent. Indicating for us that they perceive that teachers are helping them understand how to support their child's learning at home, so that's also remaining consistent. And they're letting us know that they prefer email as their communication method, and that has remained consistent over the past several years. So this shows us that our Milford schools are continuing to support learning environments for students. But I also think it's important to acknowledge areas where we have opportunities for continued growth. Parent satisfaction with communication declined very slightly this year, And we also saw modest decreases in students feeling comfortable asking their teachers for help, and in parent perception that schools are responsive to issues related to diversity and inclusion. And while most of these are not dramatic shifts, they are very meaningful to us when we plan this work. We see them as opportunities to help guide our improvement work, and that's hence why we make such a concerted effort to look at these different pieces. One area that we're especially encouraged, as I mentioned before, is related to belonging. 86% of parents reporting that their child feels that they belong at school. That number, in addition to the number of families reporting that their children have friends, is incredibly important. And then when you couple it with the third about, so now what happens outside of school? It's great if our children have friends and connections when they're in the building, but is that extending even beyond the school day? And it's remaining fairly consistent that that is also the case. So showing that our students are feeling connected and they're feeling that sense of belonging. Our families are also continuing to report positive communication overall, where nearly 9 out of 10 parents indicate that they receive helpful information about their child's academic progress, and 85% feel district communication is timely. But at the same time, the survey also reminds us that communication is an area where expectations from families, it continues to evolve, and we remain committed to strengthening that as those expectations continue to change. Let's see. As I mentioned earlier, definitely a strong preference for email, and the second preference really being around text messages. I think families are still experiencing incredibly busy, hectic lives. And then we also have some additional questions that are reflected on the survey around overall school climate and well-being. Families do continue to express a high level of confidence in school safety, and nearly 90% indicate their child's school is a safe place, and the overwhelming majority report that they've not witnessed repeated physical aggression at school. And these findings really reflect that ongoing work that's happening at the building level, around school climate, student supports, and especially positive behavioral expectations for our students. The survey also reinforces the importance of our investment in social emotional learning across the district. The parents continue to recognize the work that teachers and counselors and support staff are doing to help students develop emotional regulation, relationships, and coping skills. And these skills are foundational to both academic success as well as having that sense of belonging. And while many indicators here remain positive, the survey also identified for us opportunities to continue strengthening inclusive school environments. Families would like to see continued growth in students respecting differences in schools, being responsive to issues involving diversity and inclusion, and that's been an area of focus. And as well as the other priorities we have about making sure that at least one adult in the school knows children well, and happy to see that maintaining at a very high percentage. In terms of equity, this is also an area that indicated for this past year, a need for focus. Definitely looking for growth in the areas around being sensitive to issues that are regarding a variety of differences, promoting respect in schools, as well as having a focus on instructional materials, and making sure that students are respecting each other's differences across the board. So showing us that this is a continued area for our school climate plans to address. Overall though, what this data tells us is that, again, students are overwhelmingly, they have friends at school. And that is a wonderful thing, because that was a concern of ours over time, wanting to make sure that our students had these connections. Our families are continuing to report that they have strong feelings of belonging for their students and for themselves. and that our parents value communication and they want that continued partnership with our schools. Looking to continue having our schools be viewed as safe and caring environments, and making sure that family engagement remains a key strategy. In addition to this, our survey data from last spring is directly correlated to actions that our schools took this past year. As I mentioned, the school climate legislation requires that each school creates a school climate plan. And so some of the direct actions that took place were, in terms of communications with families, declined slightly. So some of the school responses were having planned positive phone calls with families, classroom invitations, improved communication systems across all levels. Let's see, some of the others, social emotional skills being embedded through morning meeting, counseling groups, restorative circles, looking at student engagement from the MTSS lens of multi-tiered systems of support, as well as attendance, mentoring programs, and at the high school level, very specific individualized re-engagement plans for students in experiencing difficulties. So as I mentioned, on our district site, you can find under the Safe School Climate area, all of our school climate plans for this past school year are available for the community to view, as well as the contact information for the school climate specialist for each building. And some of the things, if you were to go through each of those 14 school climate plans, some of the highlights that you would see, as I mentioned, was every staff member sending one positive or email or phone call home each week, making sure that initial contact with parents are about positive things. Invitations for families to be in the classroom, increasing and improving report card communication, let's see, climate goals being shared, intervention and multi-tiered systems of support being communicated more clearly with families. In addition, there's quite a number of others, as each school has the ability to tailor their plan to their unique survey data, but included everything from student leadership training to community partnerships, looking at service learning opportunities, shared vision work and professional learning for staff, all ways to be able to improve school climate in the areas that are appropriate for each school. So these are really the connections across the board that were so wonderful to see, though, that even though the data for each school is different and unique, there are a lot of commonalities across the board. We just had the privilege of seeing and the pleasure of seeing some of the family engagement highlights through our year in review. And these are just a couple additional ones. Some of them are repeats because they were favorites. As was mentioned, there were many community conversations throughout the year to engage our families in those important topics. High school has tremendous opportunities to pull families in, whether we are looking at senior sports celebrations for really celebrating the families that way, as well as engaging our community through the wonderful musicals and drama productions that our high schools put on each year. We also have examples here of pasta and jazz for one, as well as that is a picture of a high schooler exploring career options on the high school career exploration day. Many of our schools offer opportunities to include families, like the pancake breakfast, which I'm sure was a hit. Our middle schools as well have their numerous opportunities for families to view music concerts, engage in those veteran presentations that we spoke about before. The middle schools also do wonderful drama productions, just like they do in our elementary schools as well. We have examples of parents who come in and volunteer for different programs in our schools, such as running activities where we're sending messages to students and volunteering their time, as well as providing many of the things that help us celebrate our teachers for Teacher Appreciation, as in addition to family game night, which is a great way for our older students to be able to engage with their younger siblings and to really foster that sense of community there. We had Ethel the Mermaid as one of our musicals that took place at the elementary school. Veterans being honored. Let's see, we had family math night. There was family glow dance, as well as music multicultural night. And let's see, whoops. In addition to more family bingo, and Fancy Nancy makes another appearance because again, it was quite the hit with our elementary crowd. In terms of our next level of work, because as we referenced, usually this data is being shared with you a little bit earlier in the year, and we haven't usually already given our next set, given the next survey. But what we are doing at this point is our school teams this is the time when they review their school climate data from the spring administration and really pull their teams together. Each school has a school climate specialist as well as a school climate team that together they look at that data and they come up with their school climate plan for the upcoming school year. And that team meets regularly at the building level. They meet at least once a month to make those plans. And then at the district level, the school climate specialists, we meet monthly as well to build capacity as well as share experiences and make sure that we are calibrating across levels and across buildings and working on the identified areas of focus by level and by building. So that will be happening, and we will be forming a committee to revisit the survey questions because as I mentioned earlier, the legislation requires that our survey be research-based. So we're going to look at that very carefully and see what that could look like the next time we go about doing this in the spring of next year as well. But this work will continue to evolve as we head into the fall. So I thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
I was reading over the larger part of it, and the number of parents that responded, because to me it looks really small. We have about, 5,500 students in the district?
A little over 5,000.
Okay, so if I'm reading it accurately, about 10% of parents in the district, approximately around that, is that the amount that answered?
Well,
It doesn't seem like a large amount.
We don't have that
of
many
people.
parents, though. How many households, Lewis?
That's what I'm trying to understand.
That's a great
Is
question.
it more like
It's around 3,000.
3,000, right, okay. So households are about 3,000, kids are about 5,100. Sorry.
So it does not seem like enough parents have engaged in doing a survey.
We've tried a number of strategies. This is something that we've reflected on year over year.
Yeah.
For the 25 survey, we had 657 families respond. And for this past spring, if you recall, you might have received a text message to your cell phone from my office. We tried to make it even more accessible. I always put on my parent hat in that moment and think of what is going to get me to click and actually fill out that survey. And so we tried that, but it's tricky. It is very hard to really entice, to get the families. This year we tried surveying actually earlier and found that it didn't seem to make that big of a difference, to be honest, but always open to more suggestions and trying to find that balance of not wanting to have survey fatigue. I know that there were a number of things that we like to ask parents about, and this one is incredibly important. One of the pieces of feedback that I've gotten from community members, especially from teachers who also are parents in our district, is that our survey is also pretty lengthy.
I was just gonna say that.
It is incredibly long, and we've balanced that over the years because we really like having the data from these questions. And some, however, there's a lot of questions, and especially like I do, if you have more than one child, that is quite the commitment to actually click through all of them and to have that stamina for. So that's one of the things that this committee will be looking at.
Can you break it into parts? Like survey part 1 and they relate to particular questions in that topic, and then maybe a month later, it's easier to go through as a parent, 10 questions versus like, I don't know, I just putting that out there, because there is a lot of questions, and they seem important, and to have so little parents responding, yeah.
That's a new suggestion. We'll definitely, I like that idea that we'll definitely be looking at lots of different ways to gain that valuable information, but also be able to engage as many people as possible.
We've seen over the years, I think there's been a gradual decline in the number of people that fill it out, and I do know, survey fatigue is a very real thing. And I know in the past, we've just talked about how you might try to ask the same question different ways so that you see how the answers compare. But I know it is tricky. Does that mean you had some questions?
Thank you so much for presenting this, and whoever decided to blow up so we could actually read the numbers is really helpful.
It is really good.
I did have a question, and I apologize if you explained this. You mentioned that it happens biannually. Is that reflected, I see it says spring 2025. I'm assuming that it's not a baseline endpoint situation, that is just happening twice a year with the same questions?
The survey actually happens, the requirement is that it happens at least every other year.
Okay.
Again, it's been such a source of data for us that in Milford, we have always preferred to do it each year. But the requirement is only that you do it every other.
Gotcha.
So yes, it's only given once.
Okay.
I'm not sure we'd get as much of a response if
Yeah, no,
we kept
that makes
asking.
sense.
Might be a revolt.
Yeah.
Although I did just check, and we were able to get around 200 more families this past spring. So that was, I wanted to make sure I could see the tiny number though.
That's a good improvement.
Yes.
And just piggybacking off of what Jen said, I wonder if the primary method of delivery being email would influence the fact that people responded that email is their preferred communication. I feel like that could be possible. But it is tricky to get parents to answer surveys. I know that because I'm a parent, and
Exactly.
not my favorite thing either. The last thing that I would ask is there, because households have multiple kids, or many of them have multiple kids, is there a distinction when a parent is answering the questions? Are there instructions of answer this for one particular child?
Oh,
Yes.
that's rough.
You need to fill out the survey each time for each child. Because it asks you, what grade is your child in, what school does your child attend? Because we tried to think of ways to streamline that so that a parent like myself of 4 children would not have to fill it out 4 times. But we also really value the specificity of being able to say, this is the data from this particular school. So again, very open to suggestions. If you have an idea or a thought, please share, because there's that trade-off.
Thank you.
Is there a requirement that the data needs to be school attributed?
I believe yes, because every school needs to create their own school climate
Right.
plan. And also, I'm sure that even without that requirement, I know that our schools
It
really
makes sense.
value the individual data. But like we said, it's tricky when you're trying to get a higher response rate. It's always difficult.
I have a request. So when we get this report the next time, could you, in that report, remind us of some of I'm trying to find the page, the things that were done, the school survey data, I don't know what screen this was, where it says, you know, what the survey finding and what the school response was. Because those are like the actions that the school took to see if they
Yes.
could see improvement. So if you could just remind us of that, and those pieces, so that we can, you know, see what the improvement might have been, if they were, if their actions resulted in positive improvement. The other thing, I was kind of surprised by the responses on social emotional learning. Let's see. Which, given our social emotional skills, given our emphasis on SEL work, this kind of surprised me, you know, in the high 70s. So that's, you know, 30%, well, 20, you know, I guess more like 20% of kids are not making those social emotional connections. Are we still using that kind of curriculum? Is the social emotional learning still a, you know, benchmark of school day? I know, you know, in the past, the morning meeting, the mood meters, things like that.
It is, however, we are, I think, at a point where naturally we're in the curriculum revision cycle, where next year is actually program review.
Oh, okay.
So this data is actually very timely and indicates a need for us to revisit that, and that work has started informally this past year with some of those shifts already starting. And especially we're seeing the need for not only having the instruction embedded in the classroom and embedded throughout the academic day, but also the communication piece so that parents can reinforce that at home. So there's also that awareness of what the curriculum is teaching. So having a review next year of all aspects of that.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Flowers?
So I just, first I wanna say I think I got your text, and I think that's the only reason I went back to the email.
That makes me very happy.
Because I got the email, and I saw it, and then it just got buried, so that was helpful. Can you remind me, the email comes from the district, right?
We've experimented over the past 5 years that I've been distributing the survey with multiple ways of doing that. I found that if I sent it from my personal email, meaning like my school email, if it came from my name, if you had not been associated with one of the schools I had worked in, it might have gone to your spam, and that was a problem. So then we sent it through the way that you probably received it this year, where it comes from Milford Public Schools, hoping that that will not end up in people's spam folders as much. It's tricky, and that's why I had many conversations with Ms. Flemay about what should the timing of a text be, what should the timing of the first email be, just making sure that it wasn't too much, that people won't get annoyed by it. But we did land on having it come directly from the district email as well. The other way, though, that I think gains a lot of traction is having our principals put it in their Friday news. Because especially our younger students in the elementary schools, parents will definitely usually read that and see it in there. Not usually as much for our older students, but, so we've tried a number of ways.
So, because that was my thought, was if the email came from the individual principals, which many families have. I worry a little bit about the letters, just because there's always a lot of information in there. I didn't know, because this is so important, if a direct email would be interesting to look at. Also, connecting with individual PTAs, would they also be able to send something out? I mean, obviously, you have to be a member of the school PTA, but still, that is a group of parents at each school. So those are just two thoughts.
Thank you very much, those are great suggestions. 'Cause I don't think we tried having our principals individually email that, and that would, I think that would be a great suggestion.
But your text was great. And you said you saw an uptick of
Yes,
people feel, I mean, not to say that
we
was
had
the
about
reason,
200 more
but-
families.
Yeah.
or individual responses, I should say. I don't know how many families that attributed to, but, so, it was that.
Ms. Tedros?
Thank you. There's a lot to unpack here. But I had a couple of questions. So number one, I just wanted to echo Ms. Glennon's point of seeing, I would love to be able to see more historical context of
Mhm.
like, you know, it was this, you know, I love where it's like, this is what it was last year, this is what it is this year. If you could tie that to action steps that were taken. I just had two questions. I'd love to know if there was a metric that you were really proud of, like this one, we took this step and we saw it improve as a direct result of maybe some actions you've taken in the district. Are there any of the?
I can't speak to any direct metrics from this 2025 data, for example, because the school climate plans were not they were in response to this, not made before it, if that makes sense. So that is definitely something I look forward to being able to share with you the next time we look at this, is that based on this data, like Ms. Glennon said, these are the things that went into those plans, and here were the outcomes from that. Because when there was the school work that was done from 24 to 25, which then resulted in this survey data, I don't necessarily have concrete plans to reference to.
Okay.
But I agree with you, I think that's going to be incredibly, that'll be very interesting, and I'm actually looking forward to being able to have that dialogue with everyone.
Okay. Thank you.
Simmons?
Just a question about incentives on multiple levels. Do parents have any incentive for filling it out?
Unfortunately, no.
Do schools have any incentive for getting the most responses?
Another, nope, that has never been considered either.
So I wonder if, although I hate putting additional pressure on people who already have a million things to be thinking about, I wonder if turning it into a contest would help get more champions at the school level behind it. To Nicole's point about the PTA, we've had a lot of parents come to these meetings over the last year saying like, we'd love to support the work that you're doing, how can we be more involved? So potentially something as simple as that, and I know that in my experience with survey administration, incentives don't always have to cost money, and even if it were something where you fill out the survey to get a one-pager on something, I don't know that that would convince anyone, but something that if you click this and do the survey, you get this emailed to you or something could be another idea. But I'm sure that you've thought of many of these things, so I look forward to seeing how I look forward to seeing the results from this past year when it comes around again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, and so
Yes.
I think just listening to Mary Claire, that do we know as parents that this is being grouped per school? I mean, I know we probably fill that in, but do parents know that their answers are helping their school specifically and their, you know what I mean? That this isn't just like a district-wide,
Right.
but this is actually to be able to say, principals, administrators are able to say, like, the information, like, parents of our community, the information you give us is helping us directly help our kids. I mean, it helps all the kids, but when they're talking to their families.
I think this is going to be a great opportunity for when we market the survey again for this upcoming year, because again, I don't know that that's been, that might have been done at the individual schools, but that would have been at the discretion of the building leadership. But I think the restructuring of it really will make that very, I think that message should be much stronger, like you're suggesting, because it really does directly influence the plans that are going to be implemented in the building. So I think that communication, exactly as you're suggesting, should definitely include that messaging. So another great suggestion.
I have a question for board members. So, one of the things that makes this report hard to read on some of the pages, when it comes to us initially on our, to our email addresses, is that some of the pages have a long, they go back for comparative data, they go back many, many years. Do you feel that that many years is necessary? I mean, like this one goes back to 21, 22. So I think at some point we were looking at like COVID types of, responses from COVID, but I'm wondering now if we need that much historical data, as board members to be looking at. We've got, this was the 25, 26 year, the next one will be the 26, 27 year, right? And then we have, the 24, 25 year, are 3 years enough, 4 years? Do you have any input on that?
I think 3 years is probably enough.
Really makes it through.
Feels like a lot.
3?
No.
3 feels
No,
like
no,
too much?
this
Oh,
feels
this
like a
feels like a
lot.
lot, yeah.
I think for me, like, the point of showing historical data is to contextualize the data, to say like, we are improving, we're declining, we took these steps and it moved in this direction. So I don't know that I need to see historical for everything. If there's particular questions that we really care about, I would love to see historical data. I don't need to see numbers and percentages, I think we can pick. But as a comparative tool, I personally only care to see historical data for questions that we really care about. But I do think, like, if we are trying to move it over a certain period of time, because sometimes data can be volatile, and can go up and can go down
Yes,
and
correct,
can
yeah.
move, so I think seeing historical is important for me. I don't need to see numbers and percentages, I think percentages alone is enough for,
Well, I don't know if percent is enough, because unless you're telling me there has to be then the initial of how many answered.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
fine,
that
because
has to
they
be
like,
somewhere in there.
How
Yeah,
many
I don't
people-
know.
yeah,
How many people
agreed.
answered,
you can
yeah.
have response rate, I'm fine with
Yeah.
that, but.
Because this would be easier to digest if
Then I
there
have
was
to,
not
like,
1, 2, 3,
count.
4,
Yeah,
6
so I'm not
columns.
Yeah, it was
So
like-
I don't know that we can go through.
I didn't see that.
Counting how many people do this.
I don't know that we can go through and pick out individual questions. I think that would be really difficult for, every board member to decide how many we would choose. But, if we could maybe come to an agreement about the number of years, 3 years, 4 years. I mean, this is like gonna be 7 years, it seems, next time.
And then just the percentage.
Yeah.
Right, we need to know exactly, because I couldn't tell you looking, I was trying to figure out, maybe it said it somewhere and I missed it, exactly how many families had answered. And if I knew that, then I would know that
would need to
it
know.
was 76% out of 600 families that answered.
There is, like at the top of some of them, it says, I think we did used to, it says X response.
Yes,
So I think in the past, we have perhaps had a number filled in there.
yes, that one was missing, that
If we
one.
could,
Which level is that?
I think they're all say X response.
Yeah, they all say X responses.
I'm happy to
Yeah, they
share
do.
that with you as
Yeah.
an update.
Okay,
So how many years do we have right now? 5?
well, we have 21, 22, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, but there's a lot of data here, so.
So if you drop to 3 and then just have the percentages.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
I think 4 years is not excessive, I think 4 years is a pretty reasonable amount of time to map a change, but I think we can simplify by only using percentages, which will have the data.
Well, and I think if you make that one change and you still feel
1,
that it's
Good question. I remember filling it out, I didn't think it was an AI intuitive survey. So there's not like when you, for example, Nicole has 3 kids. Let's say for 2 of the kids, she generally feels the same about everything. Could there not be an option, as you said you have 4 kids, and there could not be an option if all your kids, like 3 of them in elementary and 1's in middle school, could you not answer for those 3 kids, not do 3 different surveys, but could you ask you, say, for these kids, do you want to answer the survey for all of them or 2 of them, and then another response at the end, say, would you like to answer now for your middle school student? Just to give a parent who, because maybe they feel great about all 4 of their kids, and they would answer the same on all 4 of the surveys, just like as an option to kind of streamline, because if you, and I would probably not if I had 4, I only have 1. So, I'm gonna be honest, if I had 4, I'm like, I'm not doing this 4 times.
I
I'm
mean,
looking again the first one.
I think
So I
typically,
wouldn't.
not necessarily all the time, but typically, for, at least for elementary school, if a parent has more than one child, it's one school, so,
It also though asks them what grade your child is in.
oh, okay, all right.
It does get you with that, but you know, I think that there's been such tremendous advances even within the past 6 months around what the technological capabilities are, that I'm excited to explore that, as well as looking at the types of questions that we ask. And so I think that we'll definitely be able to explore, because I would love that as a parent of multiples, to not have to,
Right.
and if there might be a way to do that now, whereas last year there wasn't. So we'll definitely explore all of those, and I appreciate all of the insights around the amount of data and how it's presented, because just because that's always how we've done it, doesn't mean that it's the most, and as I'm sure you noticed, I like to view data on one page, and that doesn't work for everyone to get through.
Yes, it
So-
does. So 4 years, and then, but only percentages, and then the total, for each
Yeah.
level or
Number of
number.
families surveyed, and then the percentage,
Alright.
the multiples.
I have
Yes,
a question about that. So, apologies again if I misunderstood. We need to explore a research-backed survey, right,
Yes.
for the coming year? So, I would assume that the questions will be
That's true.
changing.
that is true.
Yes, it is true that some of them might shift. The ones though that are incredibly important to us, that have given us valuable data year over year, we have a strong commitment to keeping those, because that's data that we use. So I'm anticipating we'll look for a very balanced approach, because that historical lens is important, as well as some of the questions that we have not necessarily loved over time. Looking to some of those, example surveys that the state provides, and possibly using those for, as a resource.
The important part of that is that Dr. Gillespie will be pulling our school-based school climate specialists, who are teachers, together to review the survey samples and
Yes.
to revise the survey that will go out in the spring of '27. So it'll be directly informed by our school climate specialists.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you so much
Thank
for the
you.
information.
All right, on to the next agenda item. This, board members, is a follow-up to the conversation we had previously on classroom climate control. So we do have some information for you. We also have members of our maintenance department with us, and I know that Mr. Brennan will be making some introductions. Thank you.
Different kind of climate.
Different climate.
Oh, that's true.
Good evening, Ms. Glennon, and members of the board. This evening, per the request of this Board of Education, we are going to be reviewing some of our current climate control considerations within our classrooms. And administration and members of the facilities department have conducted an initial assessment on our current capabilities within our classrooms. And this evening, we are going to share our findings. I would like to thank Mr. Bradbury, Mr. Nichols, and also Mr. Pastor for being here this evening, members of our facilities department, to help with the presentation. So health standards and safety. So defining unsafe heat. So we've done some revisiting some state guidance, and we've also had some consultation with our local health department. And in consultation with them, there is no maximum threshold for temperature in regards to heat. Public Act number 23-167 does outline some things that take into account thermal comfort. And those things are listed here, which are humidity levels, thermal radiation, and airspeed. So those three things really kind of go into the account of what would define a comfortable space, but there is no threshold for maximum heat. I would like to thank Director Deepa Joseph, as a side note. really quickly, just with her constant collaboration and communication with us. She has always been a trusted partner and is constantly thinking of ways to proactively approach any issues that we may have within our school. So I would like to take this moment just to thank her and her team for everything they do for our students and our teachers. Engineering requirements. So one of the things that I really want to emphasize here is that when we think about cooling a space, some of our minds initially go to what it looks like with putting a window unit within our own houses. When you put a window unit within our own house, it's like, oh, well, that cools the space nicely. The difference between cooling a room at your house with a window unit and cooling a space within our classrooms is quite different because of the number of other bodies that are within that classroom. So when you think of a typical classroom, you have a teacher, you have 20 or so students. The amount of BTUs that are needed to actually cool that are listed within this slide here. So it really takes 2 to 3 tons of cooling force to cool a classroom that's an average classroom size of 900 square feet. So when you're looking at that, it's really kind of staggering to think about what would be required to cool that space with one window unit. When that one window unit, depending upon the size of the unit that you actually purchase, which could be between 12,000 and 18,000 BTUs, really only is about 50% of the required capacity needed to cool that space based on the capacity of that room. We start taking a look at some engineering realities. So thinking of cooling these spaces, we have a number of different methods that we are currently using, and we're gonna go through those. There are some limitations with our current buildings. So as this board is very well aware of, with our buildings that were built back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, there are certain limitations that exist that prohibit us from engaging in a certain type of cooling within each one of those spaces. For instance, window design. Some windows are not designed so that you can put a typical window unit. Some of our schools have classroom spaces with windows that are of a smaller nature, that only pop open and close to this method. What did you call that, Mr. Bradbury?
Hopper windows.
Hopper windows. It's new vocab for me, hopper windows. So they only have the hopper windows either at the top or the bottom, which a typical standard window unit would not just fit into that. And you would have to go through a glazing process of taking out part of that glass, and we'll get more into that at a later point. But that window design actually prohibits us from certain types of cooling within that classroom space. Air exchange. Our schools are designed on negative air pressure right now, and they are currently turning over 200 to 300 cubic feet per minute of air within those classrooms, which also reduces the efficiency of the units that we're putting within these classrooms, because what we do is we turn over the air from the outside to the inside. And then the electrical load is another major factor that we need to consider. So if we were to add X number of window units or portable units or RTU units, whichever unit we look at, our current electrical capacity within our school grids would need to be taken a look at and factor in whether or not it could handle that load. And limitations of temporary cooling. Another thing to consider here is cooling the space is only half the battle. There's also the dehumidification piece of it that we need to take into account. So with these window units, the wall units, ceiling fans, a lot of these create a cooling type atmosphere, but it doesn't take into account of removing some of that humidity level that's currently within the classroom. And then we also have this wet bulb down here. Just want to call out what that actually is for those who are not aware of that. But the ceiling fans, they move the air, but they don't lower the wet bulb temperature. So a wet bulb basically takes the temperature and the humidity and combines it into one single metric. So that's something that we use very regularly with our athletics when we're looking at temperature and humidity outside for sporting competitions. And then heat mitigation practices. And this is another area that we strongly rely on the health department to be a partner side by side with us when we're thinking about some of these days that reach that excessive level of heat. So hydration protocols, looking at making sure that our students are hydrated, making sure we're working in hydration and in water breaks throughout the day. AC space rotations, so if there are certain rooms within a building that have a cooling area, we want to try to rotate other classrooms through those spaces to get students have some level of cooling throughout the day. Dim the lights, close the blinds. This reduces some of that thermal radiation we were talking about earlier, where the heat that gets transferred from another object. And then finally, early dismissal in the result of, if we get to a point where the temperatures are going to be excessive to a level that we feel that we need to make an early dismissal, that's something that we will take into consideration as well.
Thank you. So this is where we did some data collection on what we have in the classrooms. We roughly have about 514 classrooms that we take care of. And out of those 514, 208 of those have some sort of system in there. When I say a system, it's a rooftop unit, it's a split system, it's something I can monitor, I can control, I can troubleshoot from our BMS system. Classrooms without, we're about 306, and so window units or portable units, we have about 174 installed. That leaves us about 133 at this date that don't have any air conditioning in them at all. And that will change seasonally.
Mr. Bradbury, just to give clarification for us, please, the reasons why some have air conditioners in them?
All of our air conditioners are due to a teacher's requirement or a student requirement for doctor's note IEP.
Thank you.
This is two diagrams of systems that we have that we look at. One on the left is a rooftop unit. The other on the right is a VRF with a direct outside air system involved. So both of these exchange air. They're bringing in fresh air, they're tempering the air, and they're getting it back into the system. The VRF does the same thing, less ductwork in the classrooms. We have ductwork in the hallway to bring the fresh air in, temper it, and get it back to the classroom. Then we went over some financial considerations. We talked about portable fans. We purchased about 140 fans, $440 a piece, be about $61,000. Portable ACs, those are the units that are fit in the smaller windows. We need about 140 of those, about $112,000 for that, but that's for one unit. And anywhere that you need a portable unit, the portable unit's the least efficient unit that I can get. So we would need more portable units to do any different in any of the classrooms, especially at Wall or at Matheson.
I think just one other consideration there, we have this as a footnote down there. These financial considerations take into account those actual units, right? But they're not taking into account the architectural engineering design phase or the electrical panel upgrades that are needed if we were to fully put into effect each one of these classrooms having an actual cooling space.
Window ACs, we would need roughly 440 units because one air conditioning unit in the classroom doesn't sufficiently do anything. It will temper the air for a student or it'll temper it for a teacher. It really won't lower the humidity, and on a hot day, we're only talking a few degrees to lower that temperature. Any of these, there's certain schools, I mentioned Law and Matheson, would need either window reconstruction. I need to be able to put a unit in, and I don't have that ability at those schools. The windows are too small, so we'd have to take out a section of glass, sometimes two sections of glass, and put a solid panel in to insert an air conditioner. So that's that cost there. Rooftop or VRF, which is really the optimal solution. That turns the air over, it's better for indoor air quality. I'm tempering that air that's coming in so the load isn't as much. So as that outside air, whether it's too hot or too cold, will get tempered through that unit. So that VRF or the rooftop unit is kind of maintaining a 72-degree temperature with lower humidity. Portable fans, we have some pros and cons. Fans are relatively easy to set up, really not a lot of electrical load. I'm going to plug into an outlet. The cons, I'm only moving the hot air that's in the room. I'm really not getting any cooling effect other than I'm moving air, I'm speeding up the air. Portable ACs, less expensive than a window AC, but again, they're unsightly. There's two 6-inch tubes coming out of the back of them going through the window that we're looking at. They're noisy, a lot of noise coming through there. But it will meet the requirement. When we talk about why we put these in, we try and get the student and or the staff member closer to the unit. It will lower the temperature in an area, but it's not gonna be able to do 1,000 square feet that's getting turned over, 300 cubic feet are getting changed every minute. Window ACs do a little better, they'll lower the temperature a little bit, they won't dehumidify. They really struggle to do any dehumidification. It will lower it a little bit. We would need so many of them. We'd still have to do a power evaluation on what we can do. Even with the portables, we'll have to do a power evaluation because we just don't have the power in the building. These buildings weren't set up for that, and they don't have enough power to do this. We have some schools that were tripping breakers. We have to move stuff around to make sure everything works. The other big issue with both the window ACs and the portables is the noise, even the fan. You get this in a classroom, you get that constant hum, and it really gets, and the more units you put in, it's harder it'll be to hear. The cooling systems are with a rooftop unit or a VARF with a DOAS, which is a direct outside air system. They're more expensive, but as we do those projects, we're gonna be increasing the air exchanges in the room. We're gonna be obviously being able to filter that air much better than we can now. We can see it on the BMS, so I can tell in the morning, what we do the first thing in the morning, we come in, we run through our screens. We're looking at everything to make sure all the equipment's up and running. We can tell if a unit's down, we can send guys there at 6:30, 7 o'clock, and make sure it's up to go. Do all these other issues, I don't know if they're running or not. The cons of these, they're expensive. We need to do engineering to make sure we can handle the product at the school and the units. We need to make sure they're sized correctly, then we have to upgrade all the electrical and whatnot for that, and then go for state reimbursement through the state. So our long-term strategic systems, option A would be rooftop, option B would be VRF. Option A is good for larger spaces such as gyms, bigger units where we can get ductwork in there and really turn that air over. VRF is better when we're trying to get into tight spaces such as a retrofit at a high school or elementary school, because our disruption in the classroom is a little less. We're not adding ductwork to every classroom, we're adding just a ventilation through the corridor to get that air turned over.
And then just long-term strategy, so creating a multi-year phased installation approach through within our long-range facilities master plan. And when we're looking at that, that would be done thoughtfully and with engineering, site, system design. And we wanna make sure that it's done intentfully and done with the help of experts in the field to make sure that the money that's being spent is well used. So the long-term strategy would be to look at this as over a period of time within our capital improvement plan.
Which we did include in our last
Correct.
plan. We
Correct.
added that
Correct.
in.
And that's the last slide, but there should be questions, if there's any questions. for
I'm
that.
sure board members probably have some questions. Ms. Tedros?
Yeah, I guess, I understand that there's no true definition of unsafe heat, but ballpark estimate, how many days in this past school year do we feel like learning was impeded because of the school temperature?
We had 2 early dismissal days.
Mm-hmm.
There were probably 2 other days at the end of the year that were borderline calls for us.
Yeah.
And it's been a couple years since we had to do an early release on heat. But I do remember when I first started here, the first couple of years, so we're going back now 8 years. So it ebbs and flows, Ms. Tedros. There are some years that are hotter than others, so
There's some buildings that are hotter than
to
others.
directly answer your question, probably in the ballpark, you said, 4 or 5 days?
Yeah, because I think from my point of view, speaking both as a board member, but also as a parent, I can say like, these are the days that my children came home and were exhausted, not from learning, but from just the heat of sitting. You know, my daughter gets just like a really red face when she's hot. And there was probably about more than 10 days this year where she came home just absolutely exhausted from the heat. And I am not a child educator, I am an adult educator, and I have trained adults in classrooms that are probably 2 degrees warmer than I wanted them to be. And I watched adults in full control of their emotional intelligence fall asleep. And I cannot imagine what that's like with children. So I do think that as we think of this work and the impact, there is unsafe, and there is also just unsuitable for learning, and I think that definition needs to be expanded. I also am personally interested in thinking of the more, you know, obviously a proponent of AC. I think we should get AC. I do think that everybody deserves to learn comfortably, not just mitigate absolute safety, but I think learning should be a comfortable process for both the people who are receiving the learning and the people that are educating. But I would like to see kind of more aggressive mitigation, like the protocols brought up on the heat mitigation practices. There are more things that we can do just to keep people comfortable that are not, you know, as we work to redo our electricity, as we work to redo our engineering, as we work to get more full-scale systems. I think it's important that we have a shared definition for what is, you know, appropriate or what is comfortable learning, and have as many strategies as possible to help our educators access that. So if it is just being more aggressive with space rotation, if it is setting outdoor classroom, if it is, you know, that's the ideas that I got. But if there is more creative solutions to this problem that we can be more aggressive in implementing, I think that's really important.
Thank you.
Ms. Flowers?
I just have a few thoughts, so I'm trying to think of how to ask them. So the presentation is obviously giving us a lot more information, kind of like the options, but at the end of the day, the best options is obviously central AC, are the VRF DOAs, is that what we will be putting in our new schools? Or the hope would be to put those in the new schools?
Most likely, that's the way the industry's going.
Okay.
So that's the way they're going. with
Okay.
that. And on the larger spaces, they're doing the larger traditional rooftop unit.
Okay,
To move more area.
Okay.
In the classroom setting, that's
that's the way.
VRF is the really
Okay.
the way they're going.
Because I don't think we can put this in a school we're going to tear down,
No.
because there is a whole variety of reasons. So, this is going to be obviously a long-term plan, but this is a 20-plus year plan. We can't, I don't know, I still think fans in a classroom would help. I think it would do something. I was in the subway system in 100-degree, and there was a giant fan in the subway system, and it helped to stand next to it for a few minutes. So I think that the plan is to have central AC across our districts, but that is a 20-plus year plan. And we have to do something.
Yeah, and I think the fan consideration, and this is something that, you know, Mr. Bradbury and the facilities team, we talk about often, and one of the things that you consider is when you have a fan within a classroom, it's really only cooling the people that are in close proximity to it, right? Because you have that air coming to you when you're in close proximity. If you're across the room from a fan, you're really not getting the benefit of that, because it's not doing anything with conditioning the air, cooling it.
Right.
It's really just blowing hot air onto
No,
it.
and I know, I mean, I think, what did it say here? 2 to 4 fans per class.
Yes.
So, but, I mean, the alternatives,
And those are like the industrial level fans, those like the bigger ones,
okay,
which are very noisy. They do generate a lot of noise, so we try to take that into consideration as well. If you have 4 of those fans running within one classroom, when you think of just the sound that one fan would make, and you have 4 of those fans running simultaneously, it could generate some noise. We haven't done a test study of putting 4 of those fans in one classroom, but
And we do, part of our, when I talk about negative air, part of it, like when you have a window open in one of our schools, you're getting air coming through,
Yeah.
because I have so much air that I'm pulling
Turning
out
it
of that.
over.
We're turning those things over, those classrooms are getting turned over, so it's not like it's stagnant air.
stagnant air.
Like tonight, this thing isn't running, I don't know why, it's not my building. But you're not getting this in any of our classrooms. Our classrooms, we have more air coming out of those classrooms than anything. You crack a window in a classroom, and you'll feel that air coming across you. And even that can be too much in some of the classrooms, go over the window, because it's pulling so much, because we're trying to turn over as much air as we can to get air moving, because they'll feel better with the air moving. And that's our intent.
so in the 2 elementary schools and the middle school that has been, well, they're all going to be, in theory, rebuilt. So how are we going to do this? How, are we updating electrical in a school that's gonna be potentially torn down?
So this evening, we were bringing forward the different considerations to the Board of Education, to look for some direction in what that next step would be. One of the things that we really tried to cover in this presentation was all the different considerations, right? Rather than just making a decision without being informed about the different implications of that. That's something that we were trying to bring this evening, where this option would work, however, you would need to consider X, Y, and Z as a result of that.
So that's the dilemma, basically.
Sure, but I mean, we have to do something.
Well, we do have heat mitigation plans that we have been using, so, is
I
that, we need,
want to jump in, because I have taught on the 2nd floor of a brand new school where the AC broke, and it was not a heat room, and it was hot outside. And I had 2 rotating fans, which I don't think they just move the hot air, sometimes the bodies release heat, so like blows the heat off the bodies, that is helpful. I looked at that and you read it, and I was like, I have shut the blinds, I have put paper over my window, and I have offered water, and then it's hot, it's hot. I don't care if I had a whole vending machine of cold water outside my classroom. Especially on the 2nd floor of a building, and depending on where, like, I had a sun-facing window. And obviously if you went across the hall to some other teacher's classroom that wasn't sun-facing, it was like slightly cooler. So it really depends on where you are in the building, but, I understand it's a very fancy word for really nothing that really helps you cool off. It's hot. Heat mitigation is very fancy for here's bottled water. There had to be something. I'm looking at the window ACs, and they're not ideal, but, it's 12 million over a quarter million over 12 million. I do know that you don't have to get to unsafe levels to be really, and the kids, they'll fall asleep. It could be an 80-degree, slightly humid day, and your kids are heads on the desk. And I don't blame them.
yeah.
It's like it's uncomfortable. And I don't care if I wanted to give them ice, they would still fall asleep on my desk hot. So, I'm
So-
not sure the right answer,
Yeah,
but,
right.
if you're talking money-wise, at least the window ACs,
Well, the window ACs are $440,000 for 2 per class, plus another 252, I'm sorry, 440,000,
Do we have
plus 252,000 for, so a total of 700,000.
That is correct, yes. And that window glazing is the part that we were talking about, where we basically need to replace one of those panes, part of the pane, the window pane, in order to accommodate a window unit. And then we would be boarding up the remainder portion of it, right, Mr. Bradley?
It would be some sort of
It would
spindle
be,
glass.
yeah,
Do we have two, I think my daughter has been lucky enough in first and second grade to be in a classroom with a window unit. I've only seen one.
There's only one.
There's only one.
I don't have enough power for anything more.
Okay.
And,
So there would be two, if you could get two in there, you'd have two.
you're only gonna lower the temperature with two, you know, and do any significant on your hot day. We're really just trying to get an area for a child or its teacher to have some relief. And that's really, and in some of the schools, we just don't have the power, like, even a 110 unit, we're popping breakers now.
What's louder, the fans or the window units?
And they're both equally disturbing. And it's just a constant hum that's going. And it, depending where you sit in that room, you know, if you're one that's, the air conditioner's right here, you've got it in your ear all day. So, and that's why we'd like to get to a better solution, to a long-term solution, something that's gonna last a while. Because then you get into energy efficiency in the wintertime. Now I got these big holes in the window that I got cold air coming through. And as it is now, we struggle in September to make sure everybody's set up. Once Ms. Capassa sends us the letters, who has to get one, we gotta shuffle everything around, make sure that works. And then in November, we gotta cover everything up. Springtime, we have to open everything up, clean everything, so it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
The other piece of consideration, oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
That's right, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, another piece of consideration that, we didn't necessarily include in here was going to those window units. We need to think about the hours it's gonna take to install those and the cost of labor to get those in there. And Mr. Dredger, you could probably speak to this about whether or not your crew, your current crew that you have right now has the capacity to
It's a,
install that many.
that's why we leave them in now, because we can't physically take them all out and get them back in time. So we go to this cover to help us. And it's unsightly outside. I have any water that's coming out of them dripping down the building, it's on the side, you know, it's just not the best solution.
Is it all or nothing, like, because we're gonna be we're gonna be building two new schools and then tearing those down. With the ones that we tear down first, could those have window ACs, and maybe longer term, the schools that don't have it, that we're not working on for a while, maybe they have a bigger investment? It seems silly to put something
I think
those
what we're
schools
gonna
are
do
gonna be
is we're gonna
tearing
look
down.
at the money that the city has given us now and engineer a plan on our really hot spots, the second floor of Law, second floor of West Shore. We're gonna look at those areas right now and kind of fine tune that system, what's gonna work best for us and what's gonna give us the most bang for the buck. And we are always, even internally, we're changing out what we can do in-house to add a room or two, because we don't wanna be doing those portables, we don't wanna be doing those window ACs, it's not an effective system. And the energy uses, it's not working for us. And so we wanna get to where we're actually making a difference, we're turning air over, we're dehumidifying, we're filtering, we're putting HEPA filters in there that's pulling out all the dust and debris, so our air is better, and that helps keep everybody going also. Now we have CO2 monitoring on that, so we can tell when that level gets up there. And we can open up a damper on the unit, hey, we're getting too much in the music room, we gotta raise that outside air to flush that out. So that's what we're looking at every day, you know, Dan's checking that constantly. That's the benefit of a system.
You have to remember too, that when you're talking about the larger, the rooftops and the VRF, those are all that go through the CIP. So that's not, I mean, that's all very reliant on that annual, I mean, takes a long time to get through that process.
But we do have some money in the pipeline.
Yes, we
And that's
do.
getting ready to kick off,
Right,
so.
we do, for,
And reimbursement.
which is what you just spoke to.
Correct,
Correct.
yes.
And if, you know, certainly if we, going back to the fans, the fans that you were talking about, you said they're industrial fans,
Mhm.
so like, how big are they?
They're a 24-inch round steel top with a steel pedestal base.
So they hot, like, up, or is
They're
it?
up, they probably sit up about
And
this
they're
high,
blades,
and they
they're
oscillate.
blades?
They have guards on them. But as a father of 2 twin boys, I know what my kids are gonna be doing with them. So, that's what I gotta pay attention to. They gotta be put away so we can watch that, so not optimal.
Ms. Glennon, as you calculate the window unit cost, you'll have to get an estimate on electrical panel
Correct,
upgrade.
that, I was gonna say that, that it's
And
not
then
just.
I would imagine we'd have to add some type of maintenance crew
We're,
for just maintaining that.
as these systems go out, and the more involved they get, the more maintenance and preventive maintenance they need. And we're going through Pumpkin right now, cleaning all those cartridges right now, rinsing out everything, so there's a lot of maintenance that goes along with having all these units too, to make sure they're up and running.
So for window ACs, even if it was just one window unit per class, that's still almost $500,000 total, plus the consideration for the electrical pieces, whether or not the electrical panel upgrades. Because not all buildings would be able to accommodate that many.
So
And
that's
then-
why in the past, when we've had a project such as the law gymnasium, we've added air conditioning, that I was able to get that into the CIP. The Harborside cafeteria, we had to change the rooftop unit, we got that air conditioned, so they have a bigger space to go to. So we're constantly looking at getting them the space that they can at least go to on those tough days.
And then for fans, it was for one fan per class, 61,600. Two, if it was two, it would be 123,000.
Correct.
Is that Liz?
My first question is about which schools are most affected on this list. There are 133 classrooms here that don't have a window unit, don't have a system, don't have a mini split. Can you share the list of schools that is represented there by that 133 number?
Yep. Make sure.
And then my next question is, please correct me if I'm wrong, we have $1 million in the CIP for next year requested for AC. And then looking at these numbers, there are a number of options. With just what we requested, affected classrooms could get a temporary solution that's not ideal, or very few classrooms could get one of these
Split system.
fancier options, I'll call it, because I don't wanna use the wrong acronym. I understand that you don't necessarily have a fully thought out plan yet, but with that budget alone, which of those scenarios jumps out as, like, if we weren't having this discussion right now and there was $1 million towards AC, would we be focusing on just certain schools and certain classrooms, or would we be, and what would that look like, I guess?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're considering is those second floor spaces, like Mr. Bradbury was talking about, like at Jonathan Law and West Shore. As we know, the second floor, like Ms. Brown mentioned.
Harborside.
Yeah, and Harborside. I think when you look at the second floor of a building, the heat level would increase at that level, so that's something that when we talk about where to best put those funds, that's one of the areas that we were discussing as a possibility for that.
But we're not sure how far $1 million will go.
Yeah.
And that's the money that's in the pipeline now. It's been allocated. So
There's
it's
already $1
there,
million
right,
there.
so, so there's two different buckets here. There's money that's been in the CIP before,
Yes.
and then there's what we put forward into the next
Yeah.
round of 5
And I think the first step of that is really getting architectural engineering design services to have them come in and take a look and say, here's the current building that we have, what are our options? And what would be most cost effective and what would really work to not only cool the space, but dehumidify it. And then you gotta think about the timing of that as well too, because to install a full-scale second floor like that, in those summer months, it's gonna be a challenge that we have to think about logistically of how to actually implement that, because it's not necessarily just a window unit. It would be disruption with the ceiling tiles and making sure we're running piping, things of that nature, so, the vents. So it's a major project to undertake, so you really need an engineer to help you design what that project will look like, to make sure that the money is being spent efficiently.
Am I correct that a window units would not fall under CIP monies, is that correct or not?
I think it depends on how you were looking at, like, a window unit in isolation, no. But if you were looking at it as a large-scale plan, like we were
Mhm.
considering, if you said, let's window unit an entire building, then I think that we can think of that as one entire project.
Oh, okay, all right.
Is that reimbursable?
I think the issue, I was just gonna say that.
I don't know
What
if it
happens
is.
with the reimbursement is, when you bring that project to the state, you wanna make sure you touch that, whatever project or part of that building you're touching, you're bringing it up to the current code.
Yeah.
And so that's what's gonna happen, where the window unit's not gonna get you there. A bigger system's gonna get you there, to get you the air exchange and the ASHRAE standard for that particular classroom. So that's how that state
Yeah.
reimbursement works. They want you to do it, but you're gonna bring it up to the current code.
How much are you getting reimbursed for? You're saying this is 12 million to do the,
About 36.79% is our current reimbursement rate. But just to clarify, looking at a purchase that large, I think would make the capital improvement plan. And just to remind the board that just because it's on the capital improvement plan doesn't necessarily mean that it is eligible for reimbursement. So those two things a lot of times run simultaneous, but being on the capital improvement plan doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be eligible for reimbursement. For
Nor-
example, athletic turf fields would go onto the capital improvement plan, but that is not eligible. Athletic fields are not eligible for reimbursement.
Nor is there a guarantee that other bodies will approve that.
Correct.
I mean, I wasn't going into this assuming that there'd be reimbursement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, don't we get hit if we tear that school down? Don't we then owe the
So
reimbursement
if you're
funds?
seeking reimbursement, then yes, it's a straight linear calculation, that would divide it by 20. So whatever those reimbursed funds would be, they would divide that by 20, and whatever year we retire a school, we would have to refund that funding that we did not utilize.
Which I don't really think makes much sense when we're.
When you're using the CIP funds, especially if you're not going to get state reimbursement, I think it's very important to consider that when the city takes the bond or loan, the debt service on that bond is typically paid over 20 years. So if we're buying a temporary solution that may last only 2, we're continuing to pay the 18 years left of that loan, so to speak, when that product or that is no longer within our schools.
What's the life of a window unit?
About 10 to 12 years.
10 to 12 years.
So we would be paying,
8 years of debt service on
Something that's.
something that's no longer within our schools.
so we'd have to dialogue with the city on that.
Yes.
Would they be willing to take out a 20-year bond on something that gets retired possibly in 10 or 12?
Correct.
Just something to think about.
And possibly earlier
If the building is
that's
retired, yeah.
being retired or-
But we could always just pull that unit out and use it as a backup for something else.
Sedmins?
Are teachers permitted to buy or bring in their own fans?
I don't think so.
I don't believe so.
We ask teachers not to bring in their own Keurig, their own
Yeah.
microwave, their own
Rugs.
rugs, their own furniture, etc. So our general stance is, we're gonna provide you with everything you need. Sometimes when teachers bring in, those things I just itemized, they may not meet like a fire retardant regulation,
Excellent.
Other safety issues?
other safety issues,
May not
etc.
be well listed.
And if a teacher, anybody, a staff member, chooses to bring in their own item, we don't have any regulation over, we don't know that it's met any safety standard.
It seems, I understand why we wouldn't necessarily want individuals choosing which fans. Mr. Bradbury's, example of kids sticking fingers in a fan, well, a teacher would probably, be thinking the same thing. That's a consideration. Is it possible to consider, approving a few types of fans that are acceptable from a safety perspective and from an electrical perspective and all the things, and have a list of accepted fans, so that in a situation where, let's say, a school PTA or parents or the teacher or whoever, the community comes together to rally around buying some fans, that the school district would have an option that, or a few options that would be allowed.
We could do that. We try not to engage in a process that creates discrepancy from school to school, so
We're having
we've talked about, there are some schools in our community that can raise thousands of dollars in an hour by doing a walk. And then there are other schools that can't do that. So that would certainly create an access gap. And I feel like it's the wrong message if I say to teachers, here are 5 approved fans that you can buy. I'd rather get a directive from you saying, buy the fans. You know, build it into the next year's budget. I think that sends the wrong message, that we're gonna approve a fan that you can buy, so.
I think, though, I see lack of equity in the fact that some teachers and students get air conditioning and some don't. And so I think there's already built-in inequity. And again, I don't have a list of schools in front of me, nor do I think there's any intention necessarily behind which schools do or don't have that option. But I think, I hear you about not wanting teachers to feel pressure to buy something, of course. But I also believe that we live in a community that would rally behind, even if it's just purely selfish, like my own kid is in that class and they're hot and coming home sweaty, what can I do about it? For folks who are in those not air-conditioned classrooms, they currently have no way to advocate or do anything. And I think that that is worth considering. At the very least, even if, well, I'll just stop there. I think that it's worth considering that there's already inequity here, and that we don't even have the list of schools that could be advocating for themselves.
It is inequitable, but part of that, there's another side of that coin in that there's a child with a medical need. So to me, that's not an inequity, that's giving that child what they need to access the general curriculum or experiences in a room. So I'd want us to be careful that we're not inadvertently saying that students with special needs are getting, there's an equity situation there.
But is that number of classrooms with a mini split and classrooms with portable units aren't necessarily all because there's a student with an IEP,
No,
right? Some of the buildings just have.
No,
No, the-
Pat, can you explain?
Yeah, any air conditioner that's in the system, that's in the window, either has a doctor's note for a staff member or an IEP directive for me to put that in there.
So that's the portable units, that's not the RTU, VRF, and
I
mini
think
split,
some
correct?
of them are, I think some of them are window units.
Some of them are window units, because my sons have asthma and.
Correct. And
We're getting more and more.
But you have foreign that's air conditioned, you have Pumpkin that's air conditioned.
The academy,
JFK has
air conditioning. They have air conditioning?
air conditioning, okay, there's a name for it,
Yeah,
but
you can have it.
we'll just call it air conditioning.
And Pumpkin was just recently air conditioned with the current renovation that we undertook.
So if there's a portable unit or window unit, it's because of a medical need. A doctor's note for a staff member or an IEP/doctor's note for child.
Correct.
Right.
And it's not just the doctor's note, just so you know, it goes through a process
Yes.
under the
Yeah.
ADA.
Yep.
Yeah.
But, so, just to go back, I heard Mathewson mention because of the, what did you call those windows?
Or hopper window.
Hopper windows?
Mhm.
Alright, so I was looking at the long-range facility plan, and Mathewson's in my district. Mathewson's not getting touched with new facility upgrades until 2037, fall of 2037. And they can't have AC units put in the windows. So unless, and they're not on the list of second floor priorities.
It would be
So-
portable AC school.
Or you'd have to go through the window glaze option of cutting into the pane.
Right, right.
So in a Mathewson, Pat, you'd probably go the route of 2 portable ACs in each room.
We would, first we'd see what we have left for available power, so I can see what my capacity is, and that will determine on what we're gonna put in from there.
Is the load different between a portable and a window?
Yes, the portable is the least effective unit we get. It's the smallest one and most inefficient. Window AC is a step up from that, not much.
But then you have to add
So we'd
the
have to,
glazing to
yeah,
Mathewson.
we'd have to, if we wanted to change to the, make Mathewson a regular window unit, we'd have to take out a piece of glass or 2, so I can make a panel to fit that unit in lower. Right now, those hopper windows are up top, the portable goes on the floor with 2 hoses that go up to it to kind of get some air going.
And what I heard you all say before is that this summer is already, we're doing a lot of projects with AC. It requires a lot of maintenance crew to be able to do something like that. It's probably not feasible to be able to do that before the next school year, right? Or even in the following summer. So what I'm trying to get at is, are we saying that there is no, if teachers can't buy fans, we don't have maintenance time, potentially we don't have a budget, but that's on the table here, that school community can do nothing to improve the environment in the meantime?
Well, I don't think it should be up to the school community. It should be up to us.
That's what I heard Dr.
Yeah.
Patai say.
I don't-
is that
I don't think
we should be buying the
It's
fans if
on
we're
their
gonna buy
shoulders.
fans.
Yeah.
Wait, the decision is here, and I'd rather us own that conversation on what can we do for those schools that don't have relief until 2037. So
Yeah.
that's the question before the board. I think that's what you asked us, bring you information this month so that you can make a decision.
So is there a proposal from your team about what would be, in your eyes, the optimal solution?
I think in the presentation, we're offering that we work through the long-term plan of waiting for buildings to be renovated or rebuilt.
Is the optimal solution?
That's our recommended solution. I'm not calling it optimal.
So I guess, I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. So we're saying that we are aiming, the proposal before us is to go through the long-range facilities plan. The long-range facilities plan says Mathewson, again, I'm just using this as an example because we talked about it. Mathewson's getting a new building in 2037. Teachers aren't permitted to buy fans, or the community's not permitted to buy fans the proposal here before us is that we don't do anything at Matheson until 2037.
We are giving you all your options, and because you asked what we think we should do, we think we should follow the long-range facilities master plan.
So if the board thinks that the classroom should have fans, then the board should be paying for
Right.
fans. That's what I've heard her say.
We'll take your direction. If you want us to move in the direction of fans, we'll make that happen. This is a board decision, it's not our decision. We didn't bring this before the board for a solution, you asked us to bring it before you. And it's our belief that if you put fans in the room, you're moving hot air. Like, so we went through the pros and cons, and we spent a lot of time thinking through, is that the investment we wanna make? And is it really going to yield the result? So our thinking is to follow the plan. So it really is the information you asked for. We're waiting on direction from you. It was only 4 years ago, I just want to remind the board the history of this. It was only 4 years ago where I talked about air conditioning for all school buildings, and I was told no. And I was asked in public, when we're talking about air conditioning, Dr. Kataya, are you telling me you're going to go to a year-round school? I said, no. Then why do you need air conditioning?
Can I ask who asked
So-
you that?
I was just about to ask that.
It was at an Alderman meeting. So the whole notion of air conditioning all of our buildings is relatively new to us. We welcome it.
Yes.
I think, you've heard me likely say, I invite any community member to come and have office hours on the second floor of law. I've said that publicly. I'm happy to set up a desk and chair for you. It's incredibly difficult. Pat and I have walked those buildings on those days, walking around with our heat gun. And that's why we're trying to target, and Mathewson is one of those after second floor buildings, Ms. Edmonds. Mathewson is next because of their window structure, and they face the sun, right? Am I getting that right?
They're a little better, but they have a couple areas that face the
Yeah.
sun. They have
It
anything
gets
that's on a
very
parking
hot
lot.
there.
Yeah.
There's a parking lot right outside that window that radiates more heat. than anything.
So it was, fix my memory if it's not correct, Pat. It was when we got COVID money for HVAC.
Correct.
We walked across the street and said, we have this amount of money, we want to use it for air conditioning. And we struck a deal that if we use $1 million, the town will use $1 million for HVAC work, right?
Correct.
It was the first time with COVID money that we got any positive feedback from the city about using money for air conditioning.
Correct.
So the notion of air conditioning is new to us. We would like it as much as you do. We just don't know how to make it happen fast enough.
Right.
And not doing anything till 2037 is not because we don't want to, we just don't think fans is the solution. That's simply where we stand on the fan thing. I'd rather us say, build a budget for 27, 28, put window units in, increase the electrical load, hire the engineer, hire the temporary staff, and just do it. I think that's a better solution than fans. But fans could be the right now solution, and we work on the 27, 28 million dollars. Like, it could be a combo of that. So we just wanted to provide the board all the info, the money, the do's and don'ts, the pros and cons, all of it, and get some direction from you.
So to go back to your question, we do not have to make it, I mean, it's not on the agenda to make a decision tonight. We could, but we'd have to add it, action to the agenda.
So,
I think there's a lot to consider, but I don't think I'm ready
Okay.
to make a decision.
so may I add one thing?
Yes.
Because I've been going to the building committee for a couple of weeks, like 28 years. And all these projects that come up before the building committee, I am pushing for air conditioning. I said, whatever you build, air conditioning, whatever you, and I can't tell you, every time it gets cut out. It's the first thing that goes, they cut it out. I said, we're gonna be in school.
And air
or
conditioning
something."
was a contingent on pumpkin.
Correct.
It wasn't a guaranteed, it was
Wasn't a
only if we
guarantee.
have extra.
Only because of the COVID money, correct?
Yes.
That
And
was it.
because, well, more to the story.
Start having all the
But-
meetings.
But we've been pushing forever to every project
The,
to get air conditioning. Science wing got renovated at Jonathan Law. Now I have 3 units up there, brand new rooftop units, 19 years old, brand new. They're coming up for we're gonna have to do them over. So we wanna tie that into a project so we can get those converted to air conditioning. We'll need an engineer to do that, to resize the ductwork, re-insulate. But those are the things that we've been pushing for forever. And it was a hard no on the city line. That we couldn't get these things across the goal. Cause my thing is, I've been doing it forever. I'm gonna piecemeal this whole thing in somehow. I'm gonna come around, I'm gonna do a little bit at a time. Before you know it, I'll have it all done without anybody knowing. Because I can never get the full amount. Never get the full amount. I have to piecemeal my way around to get this done. And that's what we're gonna have to do.
Pat, for the next meeting, if the board doesn't act tonight, if you are, that's fine, but could you bring in one of the
I could bring a
24
portable and
inches?
set it up in.
Sorry?
I could bring a portable in.
No, the
fan.
actual fan
I
that
can
you
bring a
would be
fan, yeah.
purchasing,
I
could you
got it.
grab,
Sure.
go ahead and buy one?
Absolutely.
Would that be helpful to board members?
Sure.
And could we
Absolutely.
actually buy 3 and run it for the meeting? I'm not being flippant, no, no, I know I can be, but I'm not really being flippant. I want us to experience,
That's what you need to do.
They were very, very.
Absolutely.
So I know, like, I get it, but like, it's hot in those classrooms.
I'm 100% with you.
But the
And the
fans don't
fans
do
aren't
it.
on they are not on every single day. They are on when it's hot.
If there's-
Right.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
I'm not disagreeing with you, Ms. Flowers.
Mr. Koba, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm not disagreeing with you, I agree, but I want us to know the decision you're gonna make, what you're actually gonna purchase. That's all I'm saying.
Were fans allowed in the classroom prior to COVID? Were teachers able to bring in their own fans?
I don't know.
There were some fans
Like the
throughout
box
the district,
fans, I think.
but they weren't, they were broken, they don't last, they're plastic. And that's why you need to go to a better fan though, if you're gonna do that, because they don't hold up, they get knocked over, break.
Also, Mr. Bradbury, I have to say, I know you're a champion for our schools and our facilities and our
Try.
kids.
Thank
So like, I want you to know that I like 100% know that you are fighting,
you. Believe
and
me,
it's not,
we are fighting. Every day we're fighting.
Mr. Koba?
From a standpoint of what makes sense, just to put stuff in my mind, in one of these really hot rooms on a really hot day, the days that we have issues with, is a portable units or a window unit can even make a difference on a day like that?
A window unit.
oh yeah.
One? No.
Yeah, I mean-
On a 90-degree day,
Yeah, I'm talking about the days that we have to, I mean,
you're not getting the temperature drop.
yeah.
So I have a
figured-
question on that.
Yep.
So we only have one unit in the classrooms that have ACs now, window AC, there's only one unit in there.
For the most part, yes.
So I don't understand why we're not talking about one unit versus 2.
Because one unit, what you're looking for is the air condition to really make a difference. They're not making a difference. They're dropping it a few degrees. They're not dehumidifying. They're not doing anything with air exchange. As a facility director, I want to go to the next level. I want to make sure that we're filtering the air. I'm fighting those indoor air quality issues. I'm getting all the dust and pollens out of that system that I can. That's my goal. We want to push to that. We want a better environment that way. So it's a single window unit or portable. One, the portable's not big enough to really make a dent. If I put it here next to Lewis,
Oh, yeah.
you'll feel some comfort.
They're very loud.
And they're loud.
So-
But on a 95-degree day, we're just burning electricity.
I just want to clarify, because I was listening, so if, I think something needs to be done immediately, like it's hot, and I would be the first person that can try to have air conditioning, I think every day for the person that invented it, so they should have a holiday, actually. You know, we could have fans temporarily, maybe it's not 4, I'm just kind of thinking like maybe 2, and then, you know, I know the window units, could they be in by 27, 28? I mean, like, as how fast, when I know it's not the ideal route, I hear you on that, but like waiting, that's like a lot of years of hotness, and it doesn't have to be a heat wave. I mean, literally, I've been upstairs in law not during a heat wave, and there's one room in the corner, I think you probably could roast a chicken in, it's so hot in there. I do think like a temporary, annoying solution is better than making a school wait until they're gonna get their rebuild. And, you know, unless you're telling me the splits, and that's gonna take a long time. I mean, the splits don't sound like they could happen in 27, 28. They sound like years for that to happen. And then my next question, like, can we reuse the splits? And you're probably gonna say, no, we need new ones. So that's a huge cost, for this, just for the splits. Never mind the units that go on top of the building. So am I hearing that correctly, that if we went AC window units, that could happen in the 27, 28 year?
It all depends on the electrical panel. We'd have to get an engineer in. Pat?
How
What do you
fast
think?
can we
How
go
fast
there?
can we find out, yeah.
I think that
We have-
information would help inform a decision if we do.
Sure, so we can really see where we're at
Yeah.
power-wise, and we can see what's in there now, kind of get a general note what I have for available circuits. And that's really the issue, I don't have any available circuits to add anything, so we would have to either increase the service coming in, you know, and then it's new switchgear in the basement to get that power, to do everything. Some schools are better, because they don't have the load of a rooftop unit, they haven't had a lot done to them, so there's not a lot of electrical load on there, so I get a few of those one of those 110s in. But to get something that's really gonna make a difference, that our children are gonna feel it, and our teachers are gonna say, oh, it's definitely air on in here, it's gonna take a lot of work, but I can put some ideas together for that.
Ms. Edmonds, can you clarify what information you wanted? Because I'm thinking, you asked for, I wrote down that you want the list of schools that are not air conditioned, 133 schools. So which schools are affected? So are there any schools, I don't know that that's, I mean, doesn't every school, I would venture to say every school has some window units?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's gonna,
I have a list, I broke it all down, so.
okay, all right, so give us what you have.
Sure, I think that information is important for what Dr. Pataya was saying about going to the people who are making financial decisions on behalf of the city, because we need advocates in addition to the people in this room. And I think that, wasn't there a survey done where AC was one of the top parent
Yes, that was, yeah, going
concerns?
back, beginning of the long-range planning work.
I think we need champions, and I think we're only gonna get champions if we're very clear about what we're talking about and what the goal is. And saying, I get in the CIP how we say various schools, and that's partially because of reimbursement and all of that, but that doesn't help us build champions in our schools to help us advocate to these other boards. I also think, I mean, we don't need to dwell on this, but I would be curious if the aldermen understood that fans aren't allowed. Like, with the pushback on AC, it would shock me if the aldermen had an understanding that there is not even a single fan in the classrooms. Because I didn't understand that myself until this presentation. So, I mean, I think some of these things are really important as we seek to, whether we can make a decision in this room and have it happen like that, or we need to go to other boards and convince others that we need it. I just think more information and more personal information, will be our best bet. So, I'm sorry, that was a long answer to your question. I would like the list of schools.
So you have a comprehensive list to share. I think, just from my experience, so the things that we're talking about, obviously the more expensive RTU, and the, whatever that other, DOAS. What is it, what are the other initials, what do they stand for?
VRF,
Yeah, what does that stand for?
variable
Variable refrigerant. And variable
Um,
refrigerant.
That's a CIP, that would be a CIP process for sure.
Yes.
And so that's a lengthy process. And it's a process that's dependent upon approvals from city, that's number one. Window units potentially could be built into a budget, but then we would have to advocate why we need this big of an increase that year, whatever year that is. So, but that's probably the second most viable option, and then clearly fans is something that's more easy to do and less costly. So I think if you want, talking about immediate or something that's more timely, fans or window units would be the answer. So,
The very short term would be fans, right?
correct.
We could
Yep.
make that purchase, make that happen for September. I think, if we could find Sean's
Well, we
convulsing
have
over
to
there.
allocate the money. Yeah.
It's
We would have to-
140,000, we'd have to
We'd
figure
have
out
to go
where that's
back, we'd
coming
have to
from.
go into our 26-27 budget
Mhm.
and identify the money.
Yeah, one fan.
If we bake it in for 27-28, that'll give our team time until October, which is when we start building the budget, to do an assessment of the electrical load of each building, maybe even bring in an engineer, which might cost some money. Electrician, like engineer, architect, whatever that is. And we could have a proposal for the board for the 27-28 school year, or budget. But the budget doesn't get approved till May. So I don't know that we can guarantee every unit will be installed for September of 27.
We wouldn't be able to purchase those until July 1.
So you're looking at implementation likely for use by the spring of 28.
And in the meantime, if it were 2 fans per class, we're talking about $125,000.
Correct.
Do we pay tax, sales tax? That's a lot of tax.
But it would be something over nothing. And they're hot.
So what does the board, well,
That-
those are the choices.
I may ask one more question.
Sure.
Does your team accept community volunteers to support large-scale projects to make them more feasible? Qualified community volunteers.
To do
We
like
have to
work,
look
like,
into-
Do what?
Well, you mentioned a few times that some of these installation projects would take more manpower.
We'd have to look at
Union
a number of
issues.
factors,
Yeah,
union
no.
issues,
Yeah,
insurance
union
requirements,
issues,
liability.
Comp, those are the things, those are the other things that
The
we.
unions would be very
Mhm.
upset.
Yes, there would be.
And the liability if one of these
Yeah.
individuals got hurt while trying to install
It's-
whatever it is.
It's a struggle for our guys, I mean, even just moving the air conditioners is a.
I don't know if our insurance would allow that.
I don't know.
I
I
know,
wouldn't
and for a
consider-
window unit, when you're talking, what did you say, how many BTUs? I know what a 8,000 BTUs,
Yeah.
whatever it is, I try to move one myself, so.
Well, I think
can't
that's
imagine
a good answer. The reason I ask is that during the long-range facilities plan process, several parents came up to me at least and asked why we can't make things cheaper by having the community pitch in. I think that's a good answer. I just think it's helpful to
Yeah.
know that so that if someone does suggest that,
Yeah.
thank you.
So I don't know where the board stands right now on,
I think we need more information, right, and the electrical, I think we need to know that, the electrical cost. I don't know if I have all the answers, I know we need AC. I think we all agree that the kids get AC. I don't think any of us disagree about that part. I think it's the way forward that we're just not sure about, because I think there's some things we still have questions about, like, you know, the electrical come back and can say, you can't do the window units in every school because A, B, and C. So I don't feel I have enough information to make a decision, on what would be the best way forward right now. Fans, I would vote for fans, because they, you know, even if mentally the fan made a teacher feel better, that's something. Because it's, when it's hot in a room, even if you just mention how a fan feels better, you know, but I don't feel like I have enough information, because there's so much I don't know. Because every school is different, you said like some schools have a different electrical load. So I think like all that information's out in the proposal comes up with what the cost would actually be and what we could do. But if the vote, vote,
I mean, I would vote for fans, and then want more information, or more. I just think there should be something. And I think to your point, with the teachers, it could make them feel that, you
this
know,
is mentally, I
we're
know
trying.
that mentally, those fans made me feel like I was getting cooled off. It's so hot in there, but, you know, it just a couple, shh, you know, okay, that's good, and then shh, you know, just, even with a temporary solution, and some, I don't think there's gonna be a perfect one right now until you have
Yeah,
a
I
brand new
would agree with
building
that, yes. There's
with,
not gonna be-
brand new HVAC. That's the perfect answer,
So-
I don't think we're gonna have one.
I'll put it this way then, there's no action on the agenda. If anybody feels they want to propose that we direct administration to purchase fans, we need first a motion to add that to the agenda, it needs a 2/3 vote. And then we have to have a motion to direct administration to purchase fans.
I'm sorry,
Can I add something?
Yeah.
clarification?
Yes, Ms. Wilhelm?
With the fans, I have a question. What about kids that have asthma or other health issues and you're having this big fan blowing? I mean, isn't that something to consider?
So if there are kids, I would imagine that we wouldn't need a fan in a room that already has air conditioning
So
and
it
a
wouldn't
student
be-
that has a
It wouldn't have been the AC.
medical.
Okay.
Yes.
If we are voting to direct the administration to buy fans, where is that money coming from? Is that part of the motion? Or-
They'd have to get it, they'd have to figure out where to find it within the 26, 27 budget.
We have to figure out what not to do in order to buy these.
So that would,
Maybe you should wait till we have all the information, we have time.
well, our next meeting is August 24th.
So
I'm
on
happy
August
waiting.
24th, could we see,
Is
I
it
think
bring
for
the
me, just a
fans?
breakdown of like, of the rooms that don't have air conditioning, how they're broken out by school?
I think we could have information before then, it can come to us.
Great.
But the next meeting to take any action would be October 20th, unless we have a special meeting.
Okay, great.
So everybody's good for waiting till then.
Yep.
So whatever information we can get before then will be shared with us.
But I don't think we can have fans in the classroom the first day of school if you're not voting until the
Yep, I
24th.
understand that, yep, so everybody, that's understood.
Okay.
And that's probably gonna be the hottest time of the year. But it could be hot through September.
Sometimes even
I mean, we're all
October.
trying to move forward on something, so it isn't like we're just being stagnant and not doing anything,
Yeah.
so.
I just want to
Okay.
throw out there, I know it's not going to be a high number, but I have yet to see a doctor's note about a fan. When I'm getting those for IEPs, 504 requests, and medical needs, it all specifies specifically air conditioning.
So those classrooms will have what they
Correct.
need, they would not necessarily get a fan then,
No,
correct?
I don't think they would.
Right.
Okay.
So there could be more though that just might require air conditioning down the road.
Oh, yes,
Which
correct.
these
That's
folks are
underst-
great.
Yeah, that's
We get a
understood, that's
request and they
a
get
whole
it, they
separate
take care of
issue.
it.
So the kid when that's, so let's say you're in first grade and you require an air conditioner in your, with your math, you said you need air conditioning. You don't like remove that air conditioner and it follows the kid to the school, do you?
What will happen is every year for the children and students with IEPs, we get that list in September. And so we'll move units around. We're shuffling these things all over.
There could be more than one,
Yeah.
there could be more than one child,
I
that, you
gotcha.
know, so.
And then we have to adjust that for a schedule change in the middle school or high school. So then in the winter, we're kind of get that list ready so we get ready for spring. So we'll be moving those around then.
All right, so,
Sorry, another question. What we had discussed earlier is that fans are immediate. They can get in by the first day of school if we decide right now. The second option, correct me if I'm wrong, what you said is it probably couldn't be a realistic solution until spring of 2028.
Right.
If like all it goes well and we figure it all out and we find the funding and all of that, that would be the soonest that we can have AC,
window units.
window units. That like the bare
Mhm.
bones of AC.
I'm saying that without checking with Pat about getting an engineer and all of that.
The
So
electrical piece.
could we have that at the earliest possible spring of '28? If July 1st of '27, you could hit purchase
Mhm.
on window units and tell the electricians, I don't know who I'm talking about right now, to come in and improve the panel and put in more plugs. I know I'm getting part of that wrong.
No, but it's a
Right?
big scope there. So what we're gonna have to do is really define that scope and what schools we're gonna do. I can't get every classroom air conditioned for that summer. I would think there's
No,
gonna
no,
be,
spring of '28.
yeah, but
You have 9 months.
Mr. Bradbury, you said you needed new switchgear for some of these
Some of
locations?
these will have to.
And the last
increase
time I
the
remember for
surge.
pumping the light, there was a
Was
long
18
lead time, 18 months for the
For
switchgear.
switchgear.
So depending upon the
That's-
size that we need,
That's
that was, I
part of
remember
it.
that being a problem with our pumping the light
The
project.
biggest thing is get what's the capacity, and then what do we have to do to move forward? That's the first thing we need to do.
So my understanding is if we vote tonight, we have a solution, a bad one, let's be honest, but we have some solution that could be relevant for the next 2 years plus.
Yep.
Otherwise,
They're hot.
we have zero solution until maybe some schools in 2028 spring.
I would agree, that's in a nutshell.
I mean, to me, that makes a difference in how I'm thinking about it, for sure.
In terms of,
I just I don't feel like it's fair to our teachers or students to be forced to sit in one of these classrooms on such a hot day with not even the option of a fan.
okay. I'm gonna make a motion that we add to the agenda the purchase of fans, that we direct, a motion to add to the agenda a vote on fans.
I think we were
So
good with
is-
fans
Is
until we
there,
figure out
just
the
for
AC
fans, is
thing.
there a
Yeah.
second for that?
Second.
Okay, so does anybody oppose to adding this to the agenda for action?
No, but I have a question.
Yes,
If we vote on fans tonight, does that mean that we can't vote to put the window
No.
units in?
That'd be
No.
different.
Okay,
this would be.
just making sure.
Okay, does anybody oppose to adding that to the agenda? Okay, so now I make a motion that we direct administration to purchase 2 fans per classroom that needs it, using funding from, as appropriate, from the 26-27 budget,
As appropriate?
as appropriate.
What does that mean?
Okay, 2 fans for every classroom that doesn't have anything.
Great. And we'll find the funding source for that within the 26-27 budget.
Is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries unanimously. All right, so we'll have fans for classrooms while we figure out another solution. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm gonna let Mr. Brennan just settle.
Yes.
Outstanding.
Do you want a code switch? You wanna? Do you have? So we're gonna do the quarterly report next. Mr. Brennan has the next 3 items: quarterly report, the final budget transfers, and the disbursement report.
So in your package, you will see a list of our quarter 4 report for the 25-26 school year. Running through this report, one element that I wanted to call attention to was the year-to-date encumbered. So when you look at that column, which is that second column there, you'll see that there's still some funds that are outstanding that still need to be invoiced and remedied. Now, the reason for that is that some of these bills are still forthcoming. For instance, when you look at just as an example, when you look at the utilities in the 4100, 4101, 4102, there's still funds that are set there encumbered as a result of not being billed from the utility companies yet. So that money is called out for with what we know is going to be spent in those accounts, but has not been invoiced yet, and therefore not purchase order and spent. So it's still encumbered, but it's fully expended. At the end of this report, when you flip to the final page, you will notice that all of our funding for this year is fully either spent or encumbered, and we ended the year with a balanced budget. This time, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Nice job.
Yes, I like that clap.
We always like when we hear balanced.
Always like to hear a balanced budget.
I just wanted to draw attention to the unpaid meal charges, Mr. Brennan.
Yes,
Is that for 1 year or 2 years?
that's for 1 year.
Okay, and I noted that going into 26-27 budget, we've allocated budget $40,000 for that. So going forward, do you anticipate we'll be budgeting dollars to offset this?
I think some legislation in the past has allowed us to utilize funding within the food service budget to offset some of those costs. This year, we were not able to do that. The legislation does not allow us to do that this year, so this is, it gives us some baseline data of what that amount's going to be. We've been working closely with our, not only food service department, but our special ed PPS department, to ensure that we are reaching out to try to support families and make sure that we're not missing anything and getting all the support they need. So I'm hopeful that the 40,000 will help offset some of those costs, but to get an accurate prediction of what that actually could be, I think we're gonna need some time to go through.
I know that Ms. Faustich in the past has mentioned that they do, when they see a family seems to be struggling with paying the bills, that they do approach them about filling out a form for free and reduced lunch,
Free and
but
reduced
that
lunch.
sometimes that's not always the reason, so.
Yes,
So you're saying that legislation changed so that we are no longer allowed to use food service surpluses to?
excess, yeah, we're no longer allowed to use their excess funds to
Okay.
cover that, which we had used in previous years.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Any questions from board members on quarterly report?
This
Okay,
This dovetails nicely into our proposed final budget transfer request. Now, this is a request that we do at this first meeting in July, and this is one where we have already transferred these amounts in the account, because as of June 30th, we need to end the year with that balanced budget and ensure that all funds are encumbered. When you review this list of transferred from, it has a list at the top there of all the funds, very similarly to the one that you saw in June, of funds that were transferred from these specific accounts. And then at the bottom, it lists where those funds are actually transferred to. So some of those accounts are the teacher substitute line item, overtime salaries, social security, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, over 65, transportation regular and fuel for buses for a total amount of $1,010,136. And those are being transferred to our building projects, grounds projects, building rental expense, equipment, and furniture and fixture for that same amount. I would like to just note that the bulk of this transfer is going towards the buildings and grounds projects, which is one area that Mr. Bradbury is constantly advocating for. And we know that that money will be used appropriately to make sure that our schools and our grounds are getting the things that they need to be working functionally properly for our staff and students. So we thank Mr. Bradbury for his work. I know the summertime, this is one of those areas that makes his summer very busy to ensure that these funds are spent. But thank you, Mr. Bradbury, to you and your team for working through that. Thank you.
I know, I think it's important to note too that buildings and grounds lines in our operating budget has been underfunded for many
Yes.
years now because of, we were holding off on some things while we worked through the long-range planning process. But also, this has been an area that, when we have had a budget reduction, we've always taken from these lines.
Correct.
So we're kind of playing catch-up here a little bit, I believe.
Correct, absolutely.
I have just a quick question. The building rental expense, is that, where is that? Simon Lake?
It is not Simon Lake. It is a facility that we have that's right on the Orange West Haven border. So we have a need for a facility, and for years we've actually had that building of a facility on our capital improvement plan for years even prior to me arriving in this position. And it had never made it through that final stage of approval. This is a space that we need to utilize to store some of our equipment, some of our different things that we have for classrooms that may not be used in the immediate, but we don't have space in our building to store things. I think when you look at a building, especially some of our elementary schools, even trying to get like a PTA closet in there, I know that there's a fight for just getting a small closet, right? So there's no space to store some of these larger items, especially equipment needs that we have for students. There may be an IEP type situation where a student needs X, and then the next year it's not needed, so that rather than disposing of that, we now have storage for that. So that's the need for a building.
Did we need a bit more space? Is that why it was sort of over, it's
This
costing more?
is something we've been working on for a few years now. We've actually been working with this space. This is coming out of the trailers that we had for COVID. If we remember back to the COVID times, we had a number of trailers at our schools that were storing furniture. So we needed to find a more temporary, a more permanent space for the temporary trailers. And this was the outcome of that.
It's been mentioned several times in terms of whether, during budget season,
Yes.
during long-range planning work, that we've been renting this warehouse space.
How big of a warehouse?
So it's not, I'm sorry, what?
How big is this warehouse?
6,000 or 9,000? 6 or 9? What is it?
About 8,000.
8,000?
No, yeah, it wasn't why, it was more of
Oh.
just, yeah, I understand the why, it was more of, if it's a set fee, or did they raise the rent? I mean, in a way, you kind of know the monthly rental on
We know-
that. So that's why I was kind of curious, is why did that go over?
It's not, you didn't budget for this
We
amount.
didn't
It's not
budget.
in
Oh,
our
you didn't budget for it,
It's
it
not
wasn't
in
in the
It
budget?
wasn't in
yeah.
the budget. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't ask that appropriately.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it wasn't in the.
Is there a reason why we haven't actually put it in the budget? Because I looked, it's not in the 26-27 budget either.
So it's something that we are actively trying to
get out, to
move
not
away
have-
from.
yeah, okay.
Unfortunately, it's very difficult to get away from that. We have a very thorough disposal process, so we don't want to dispose of anything that has life or value with it. And as a result, looking at some of this furniture, what we'll do is when a new classroom needs X, Y, or Z, we say, here's our inventory, and then we pull from there. So over time, we are assuming that this will get lessened, but that doesn't just come overnight. So that's the reason why I think when we look at tough budget times and where we can make a cut, that's one of the areas that we say, we can't put that in because of X, and then we have hopes to not have that facility, but with the reality of it, we really still need it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Edmonds?
Can you talk about what the furniture is for the first grade classrooms?
Sure, absolutely. Happy to do so.
Ms. Altieri and Mr. Brennan are working on this.
Yeah, so, I can kick it off, Mr. Altieri. One of the things that we are looking at, so we had, looked at ways to upgrade and think of, new learning environments for our kindergarten classrooms in past budget cycles. And then we were thinking of a natural progression with that when we think of our first grade classroom. So one of the things that we went through is we spoke with first grade classroom teachers and administrators and thought about some different options for optimal learning spaces for them. And then as a result of that, we gave some options that were selected by the teachers, and we purchased that
first grade classroom furniture.
Yeah, we looked at some different options in terms of, as we shared with you, trying to create different arrangements in the space, small group, dual seating where kids can be side by side with each other. So we looked at several different kind of table designs as well as chairs. As Mr. Brennan said, we met with representative principals and classroom teachers and got their feedback on it, and then worked with the principals and their teams to figure out at each of the schools what would work best for their spaces.
I think another component of this as well is to see that second part of it that talks about new sections that needed to be added. So every year we go through that ebb and flow of when a certain threshold's met with the enrollment in a class, in a grade at a school, we now open a new section. So when that occurs, if it's a new kindergarten section, we need to outfit that new class with the furniture for that. So that goes hand in hand with that line item as well.
Is it fair to celebrate that as like, guess what? Every single first grade classroom in the whole district is getting brand new furniture.
Yes.
Okay. And then on the flip side, what is happening to the old furniture? Just out of curiosity.
Same process that we normally do. So we take a look at that, inventory it. Some of the furniture is going to be needs to be disposed of as a result of not functioning. If not, then it will either be inventoried or it will be put into another classroom that has furniture that should be retired.
Thank you.
And this is one of those items, Ms. Edmonds, that we want to put in a budget, but we're trying to be lean and mean about it, and inevitably, it continues to get reduced. So every year, we get requests for new furniture. And so we're hoping to do it in a systemic way, so that not there's one second grade here, one third grade here, or one math department here. So that's why we just grabbed an entire grade level, so that all first graders have access to brand new furniture. So hopefully, if we have other opportunities, we'll go to either second grade or all math classrooms at the middle school level, or the entire English department at both high schools. Something systemic like that.
Any questions? Mr. Colby, you have the motion.
Yes, I motion that the Milford Board of Education approve the administration's recommended 2025-26 final budget transfers as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Tidrow seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay.
All right, final item, Mr. Brennan, disbursement report.
Yes. Members of the board, in your package, you will also find a list of all the cash disbursements for the month of June over the amount of $1,500. At this time, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I had a question on the first page, maybe 2/3 of the way down. EMS Link Incorporated, it's $3,000. It mentions position, let's see. Well, can you explain what that's for?
Yeah, so position control is a way that, this is for the implementation and training of a position control module within our Alio, one of our platforms for tracking staff.
Oh, okay.
So this is something that we have been working on as a team, and we are very excited that under Mr. Cavallero's leadership that we are looking at more efficient ways to track as we always look at how do we continually improve our practices with budgeting and tracking staff and tracking purchases. This is one of those training modules that is going to help us do that. So we're actually very excited about this training module that him and his staff undertook.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you.
And now finally, under the superintendent's report, Ms. Capazna with our TMD report.
Thank you. In my monthly report, you have the listing of current job postings, personnel recommendations, retirements, resignations, terminations, and stipend appointments. I will note that the East Shore grid is included because it wasn't ready for the last meeting. We already received the high school and the 2 other middle schools last month for their curriculum leader and team leaders for next year. And also, I just want to report that we ended out the fiscal year at 15 teacher retirements. And we're well on our way to hiring for next year. We've got 29 teachers hired so far, but we do have quite a bit left to go, so.
Do you know offhand how many left?
How many, we have 16 current teaching positions that are
16 to
unfilled.
go.
Yep, and 29 hired so far.
Any concerns?
Not yet. The shortage areas obviously are always a concern. Special ed
We
Math,
just
science,
received a memo
science.
on shortage areas, Ms.
for next
Kavanaugh.
year, yeah.
No surprises on that.
No
Special ed
surprise.
continues to be on there.
Math, science, world language, amongst other things,
We
yeah.
just had strong 4 hires for PPS.
We sure did, yep, late last week, we
Say that
hired,
again.
we hired 4 strong special ed folks towards the end of last week.
Oh, good.
So it comes in, it's, you know, in waves, depending on where we are in the process, between interviews and demo lessons and reference checking and all the great things that go into it.
Has math been a shortage area?
Math has been a shortage area for quite some
I know
time. We
science
did
is
have
something
2
about
math
that.
hires in the beginning of the summer, so we're locked in there, which is nice.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Kasna? Ms. Flowers?
I'm just curious how many security guards have been hired so far?
The armed security guards, we're still in process. We've identified quite a few of them, but we have not made any official offers yet.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I think, is it this week, Mr. Brennan, that we're doing kind of a second round of, we need 10, we did a whole bunch at the beginning, and we have a second round going, and then we're gonna tabulate from those 2 and make offers real soon.
Correct.
Pending offers,
Pending offers, right?
pending psychological
Psychological testing,
evaluation,
yep.
full background review, et cetera.
Right. But we do have to, you know, get moving on them to get all of their training and equipment and everything ordered, and at least attempting to get them in on day 1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Kasna? Yes?
I really appreciate the new teacher academy. Is that what it's called? That was highlighted during the report earlier. I think that that's a super cool thing that we do for new teachers. So I know that maybe should have been said earlier, but since we're talking about new hires and new teachers for next year, I think that that's something to be celebrated as well.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kasna.
We've completed the report. Ms. Flynn.
Thank you. Mr. Koba, do you have a motion for the consent agenda?
Yes, I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items, which are consideration of the minutes of the June 8th, 2026 business meeting and the June 15th, 2026 special meeting.
A second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Tedros. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Any board comment tonight? Okay. Motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn.
It's not my job, Tom. I just say
Second by Ms. Tedros. If there's no objection to adjourning, we will